staff is bringing this evening just some information related to additional questions that board members have asked as a result of reviewing the online feedback and the public hearing from a couple of weeks ago. You asked us to just revisit some areas with regards to this as a planning session for you. So we've got some information prepared that we will go through. And if there are options that we can take a look at based on questions that you have asked, we'll give you that information as well. At any time, certainly feel free to redirect us, ask for additional question, clarification, information. At the end of the session today, we'd like for you guys to approve whether there's anything that's a change here or what's already been proposed in preparation for the vote that will occur on December 1st for final approval of the enrollment plan for 2016-17.
Talk about whether the board supports it as opposed to any kind of vote in work session, right? That's what you mean.
Here?
Yeah.
No, the vote would be December 1st
Right,
as
that's
an
what
action
I
item,
said.
yes.
Yeah.
Here is just like a thumbs up on things, perhaps.
Working to get consensus.
Gotcha, thank you.
Working to get
So
consensus.
if you will see the timeline, we've got it at the front this time as well as at the end. We'd like to remind everyone that we started this process back in actually August 18th with the first draft. So we are 3 months in with regards. Right. Well, I'm not going to say anything about that.
Spiraling education.
And during that time, after we presented draft 1, we had an opportunity. Student assignment staff that were invited to board advisory council meetings to go over what was in draft 1, get some feedback at that level where principals and parents are part of those meetings. And then we brought back draft 2, and of course the online form opened immediately, brought back draft 2. And in draft 2, there were some changes that were suggested based on meetings that occurred, parents' suggestions, questions that came up, feedback from the online forum. Between draft 2 and draft 3, we had community sessions in 3 or 4 areas in the county that all folks were invited to, and we would go through the presentation there as well. We presented draft 3 a couple of weeks ago, actually 4 weeks ago, no, 2 weeks ago. Draft 3.
October 20th.
On October 20th, we presented draft 3, so that's 2 board meetings ago. And then we had a public hearing on November 3rd, and so we submitted draft 3, which is the final draft that staff does, and then I was turned over to the board for additional review, comment, or change prior to adoption on December 1st. So that's where we are, and you see that on the timeline. So now I'm going to turn it over to Laura, who says she has no jokes for you today.
I do
We
not
don't have much time.
That's right, we don't have a lot of time. So we have brought back to you today some of the issues that have created angst with parents and with some of you. And we're just going to go through one by one, and we're providing some more data. Can you hear me okay now? Just feel so weak today. No joke. I can't talk loud enough, but we'll get it together. Okay, so starting with our moves from Mills Park Middle to West Cary Middle, we're showing you quite a bit of data here. Mills Park Middle, if you look at the table on the left, if you add together their current students plus the 281 students they have overflowed as of today, their enrollment would be 2,023 students. Their campus capacity was built for 1,415. They are a very crowded school with high growth, still on the horizon for the next at least 5 years. Mike is sitting with us today, shaking his head yes. Without the overflow students at the school, they're at 143% utilization. Very crowded. With the assignment changes that we're proposing, the area that's predominantly, I believe, Breckenridge, to West Cary, we will bring that crowding down to 131. But it is still going to go up year after year. The relief will come with the opening of M16. If you look at the map, it's in the northern corner there of the county. It's not yet funded. It is definitely on our radar because we need it. I talked to Joe this week. If we get funding, some type of funding by June of 17, we can open that school for the 1920 school year, okay?
And Mills Park is currently capped.
Mills Park is currently capped, and as I
and
said,
it's
they
capped
currently
at
have
elementary
200,
level too.
elementary's capped, and the high school level. That's just very crowded out in that area of our county.
And we're not looking at moving these kids so we can remove the cap, it will stay capped.
It will stay capped, absolutely. So the next big issue with parents, and I can understand that, is are we going to be moved again with the opening of M16? I can't answer that question today. There's still questions around M16. You know, it's going on the same campus as Alston Ridge. Alston Ridge is year-round. Our current building program is to open all new schools as traditional, so there's a calendar conversation we're going to have. Historically, we have used a 3-year period, not to go less than 3 years in changes of assignments, and this would still fit that window, but to be specific, I can't really answer that question. You see where the area is in relation to the school. It is very dense around the new school. The population is very dense and will be greater by the time M16 opens. So we believe that this change is necessary, okay, at this time to help also Mills Park Middle School.
Do you want to try to answer questions as we go
I think
through?
so.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Any questions on this piece, Mills Park Middle School to West Cary?
I just wanted to comment that I really was one of the main ones that was asking staff to look closely at this because I am sensitive to whether the same area might get moved more than once in a short period of time. And hearing from the Breckenridge families that they feel like they've been moved a good bit before. I don't mean real recently, but you know, they're just in one of those sort of outlying areas that has been an unfortunate impact for them. But I mean, the reality is what it is with the Mills Park base area being so crowded and continuing to grow. And considering the fact that will be at least 3 years before we have another middle school opening in that area, and we know that 6th graders that we send from Breckenridge to West Cary next year will be finishing out at West Cary before we potentially make any change.
And those who are
think
at
it's
Mills
okay.
Park can grandfather, correct?
I mean,
Yes.
So those who are there at Mills Park right now can
All
grandfather and
grades are
stay.
eligible to grandfather.
good point,
And
because this
those-
is existing to
This is
existing.
existing to existing, so
Yes.
those who are not there yet are remain affected.
So I just,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
it's not an optimal situation for those families, but I think it is still a reasonable partial solution to crowding at Mills Park. So I just wanted to say I appreciate the staff looking at it closer, but it seems to be logical.
Thank you. Thank you, so, any other comments or questions?
I will just add that the long-term solution is more capacity. So let's not forget that the long-range capital plan is got to be something that these decisions inform.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes,
But
Tom.
related to that, we have to make sure that we use the capacity that we have, and that's one of the things, I mean, we have to make better use of West Cary because we have capacity there.
Right.
We can't say we need capacity when we've got capacity modestly
That's all
proximate.
part
I mean,
of
this is not, you know, miles across the county. So we have to do our job and use what we have.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think I hear consensus on that.
All right, thank you. All right, the next item for discussion today is the opening of Oakview Elementary. It will receive students from Holly Grove Elementary, which has an enrollment cap, Holly Springs Elementary, which is also very crowded, and we've given you some data there on the left. The opening of Oakview impacts Holly Grove Elementary minimally. The reason is because if you look at the map, just south of Holly Grove, we have E45. And we're, I believe we've already started the design on that, Joe? Yeah. It's not yet funded, but it is tops on the priority list, and it will take, provide greater relief for Holly Grove Elementary when it opens. So if we look at the table, Holly Grove, if you count the calendar option, or excuse me, if you count the overflow students, there's currently 87 students capped out of the school, plus their current population of 1,175, that puts them at 131% utilization. After this change to Oakview, they're still going to be at 14% utilization. So the issue is, can the families calendar back? And staff does not believe that's possible. Because turn the page and you see the growth map, this is a super high growth area also. And Mike just met with the Holly Springs planners today and got an update.
Yes, we were last there in March of this year, and since that time, there's several new developments online with several hundred houses coming in Holly Grove.
And that are not reflected in this
Right.
this picture here on page 5. So the issue, well, issue 1 was they would have liked to have gone back to Holly Grove as their calendar option. Issue 2 is, would there be an available seat at Holly Springs Elementary? And so if you look at the data for Holly Springs, they are sending a good percentage of their students to Oakview. And so they will go from 144% utilization when all is said and done, down to 100% utilization. Now, what I want to point out to you guys, that in none of these change situations is that going to happen overnight. You know, we have grandfathering rules. We have, in this particular case, we have 16 mobile units on the campus of Holly Springs Elementary. We are not carting those off that campus this summer, okay? We're going to, you know, get them down on their mobile units, but they're still there, and we will still use them over time as we bring the enrollment down. So I'm comfortable in saying that Holly Springs Elementary will have available calendar option seats for the Oakview families who want to remain on the year-round calendar.
So,
Thanks for all this information. I'm just asking for confirmation of this. I believe I saw in the material that we're going to be looking at tomorrow in Facilities Committee meeting that the staff will still be recommending leaving a cap on Holly Grove Elementary.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
sending a big chunk of their base to the new Oakview is not going to give enough relief that the staff feels like we can lift the cap.
That's correct.
Then I think that's really indicative of where we are in that base area, and has been talking about the potential for people to counter option there. You know, once we have a cap on the school, it's virtually impossible for anybody to transfer in for any reason. So obviously, counter option people would have difficulty. So I guess that really tells the story about the expected future, continuing and future growth in those southern areas. That the opening of this new school will not even alleviate Holly Grove enough to lift the cap for next year. I think that says a lot. Okay, thanks.
any further questions? We have support for that. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, now we get to an area that, oh my goodness, we've had just, well, I was talking to one of you all this morning, and the issue is, after draft 1, we got considerable feedback on the Pleasant Union Elementary School not being assigned as base to the new Pine Hollow Middle School to match the calendar year-round to year-round. So in draft 2, we came back with that recommendation. But then we have another set of families that want to stay at their current assignments, For base, it's Wakefield and West Millbrook, and their calendar option is currently Durant. So this is really a tough call to make on this. So what I've got here is I've got this year's assignments are on page 6. We're talking about the outlined in pink area, Pleasant Union Elementary School. They currently have a mismatched base middle school assignment. Pleasant Union is multi-track year-round. The middle school assignments are, the northern part is Wakefield Middle School, and the southern part of the attendance area is West Millbrook Middle School. And then if you look at the map on the right, it represents the calendar option, and all of Pleasant Union applies to Durant Middle for year-round. That's today's situation, okay, this year. Turn the page, and this is now what we had proposed in draft 3. Well, actually, we had proposed it in draft 2 also, based on the feedback that we got from draft 1, that all of Pleasant Union would be based in Pine Hollow Middle. And we originally said that their calendar option would be Leesville Middle. That's the picture on the right, okay? So there, you guys have been just bombarded both ways. And so what we've got here for you is several options to consider, okay? Option 1 on page 8. Leave Pine Hollow leave the Pleasant Union area assigned as base to Pine Hollow, so we now can continue our practice of calendar match from elementary to middle, but allow the calendar option to be the traditional calendars where they are currently assigned as base. Okay? So this scenario allows some parents to have what they're asking for. They want to stay at Wakefield and West Millbrook, okay? It does not give parents the option to go to Durant because their base is year-round for middle school, so they wouldn't have another year-round. So this is one option, okay? All right.
In that option, are we confident that we have capacity at West Millbrook and Wakefield to handle the request to stay?
Yes.
No.
Yes, we are confident. Okay, one option, keep them as base as Pine Hollow and change their calendar option from Leesville to Wakefield or West Millbrook, depending on their address. Okay, and it's basically how they're assigned today.
And that would also relieve some pressure on Leesville.
Yes, it would. It would. All right, option 2. Don't change their base assignment at all. Keep their base as West Millbrook and Wakefield. And allow them to have a choice in their calendar option. If they're currently at Durant and want to stay at Durant, they can stay there. If they would like to apply to the new Pine Hollow, they can do that too. Okay?
Which one gets transportation?
Well,
I think that the practice has been with elementary schools that have 2 calendar options that you provide transportation for either one.
Yeah, which we can't afford.
I have.
I'm sorry, but each of these folks have one base assignment and one calendar option.
Currently, today,
I mean, on this proposal,
Two.
Should be 2 calendar options.
But it says using Creedmoor Road as a divider, so is that
I'm
saying that?
misunderstanding. I thought
Oh,
that
my
one side
apologies.
would have one traditional base and one calendar option, and the other side would have one calendar base
yes.
and one calendar option.
I apologize, I jumped ahead to another option I was going to show you. This is the one where we use Creedmoor as a divider. And if you're east of Creedmoor, you apply to Durant. If you're west of Creedmoor, you apply to Pine Hollow.
So that would ease the transportation.
Yes, that would ease transportation, yes. And remember, I talked to Mr. Schneidmiller today, we're up here in the watershed. it's a pretty difficult area to transport anyway, okay? So we really have to think about what we're gonna do here in light of the transportation issues, okay? So again, I apologize. Option 2, keep their bases traditional, just as they are today, and split their calendar options north and south along Creedmoor. So east of Creedmoor is Durant, west of Creedmoor is Pine Hollow.
Transportation,
We knew you
isn't
meant-
it?
She means east and west.
We know, we got it.
We figured, yes.
Thank you all for putting up with me. Option 3.
Thank you for putting up with.
I can get you Mountain Dew.
Just for clarification, for transportation, this model where east-west of Creedmoor Road is the divider, you could still be sending buses way up north.
Yes.
Whereas the north-south divider, you send one bus up north and
Yes.
keep one.
I think that's the
Well, the
next option.
north-south divider is the next,
Exactly.
And I was
is
about
the next option.
And I'm sorry, so, but on option 2, the divider of Creedmoor is for the calendar option, not
Correct.
for the base.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The base
The base
station.
The base is divided north and south, but in option 2, the calendar is divided east and west. Option 3, the base and the calendar are divided exactly the same. If you're in the Wakefield base, then your calendar option would be Durant. If you're in the West Millbrook base, your calendar option would be Pine Hollow,
Okay.
which I think would help with the buses.
Yeah.
And it
Okay.
keeps,
And it's
and it's
the
equal
continuity.
1-to-1. But
Yeah.
each address has one
Each
traditional
address
base
has only one
and one
choice.
calendar option.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
And then option 4 is the one where the base stays traditional, Wakefield or West Millbrook, based on your address. But everybody would have the choice of Durant or Pine Hollow, and this is the one, in talking to Mr. Schneidmiller, that would be the most problematic for transportation. I mean, just given the, you understand the
Yeah.
watershed issues
Yes, I
that
think we
are
get that.
there.
All right.
Yeah.
Syndicate.
All of these would be favorable, that we would have, there would be no issue about seats at Leesville. For calendar option, we have another discussion coming up.
Right, but I think to Tom's point, we did hear from parents, I think it's important to make sure that we have some capacity at Leesville and some traditional options.
Yeah.
Mr. Hill?
But I'm leaning toward using Creedmoor east-west
East, west.
in terms of where the counter option would be. You know, west of, east of would be, what, Durant, and west would be Pine Hollow.
That's correct.
I have a question. Is there a portion of the Pleasant Union Elementary base that feeds to Leesville High School? Is that area
Yes.
west of Creedmoor feed
Yes,
to
there-
Leesville High School?
I know that there is a portion, exactly what it is, I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Do you think that would coincide with the group that would have Pine Hollow as their,
That's
would
what
have
would
to
make
check.
most logical, that's
Okay.
what I'm trying to
There's
get
more
at.
of
If we can
a
define where that area is,
Yes.
you know, because it seems like the folks that are going to West Millbrook and Millbrook, many of them wanted to keep that pattern, and the folks that are going Wakefield to Wakefield, many of them wanted to keep that pattern. But it was just the ones, maybe more on the western side, that found the Pine Hollow attractive, and I would assume those are the families that then would potentially feed to Leesville High. And that might be the only reason I agree with Kevin as far as, that's kind of how that
All right.
east-west
We'll
boundary
check on
falls.
that. I think Mike's over there working on it right now, so we can continue this discussion, or we can go on to the next,
Before
but
you
we can
go,
get that for you. Yeah.
Kevin, your clarification and preference was for which of the four options?
If I'm understanding it, I narrowed down, it was option 2 and 3, and I'm thinking of option 2.
Okay.
If you can share that one, but that's the one that Creedmoor running north-south, but east and west of Creedmoor
Correct.
pretty
Is
much
dividing
keep
the calendar
keep
option.
Correct.
The
Okay.
calendar option on the,
And
So
the-
I wonder-
and the base though.
I wonder about a modification of that, because the east-west Creedmoor makes fine sense south of Durham Road. North, then that's where we have the greater population. We have lower population up there in the north tail of the county. And so the east-west of Creedmoor Road up there means we have to run 2 buses up there. So I could be with you, Kevin, on the east-west of Creedmoor Road if we're south of Durham, but the north strikes me that's gotta be all one, or unless transportation would strongly argue otherwise.
And why could we not do that?
Hmm?
And why could we not do that?
No, that's what I'm saying. Is that another
That certainly
possibility?
could be, absolutely,
No,
that
I
could certainly
think
be
I was
another
wondering some of those
possibility.
neighborhoods that were close to Wake Forest,
Right.
where they fall, as opposed to heading over to Pine Hollow. I
Right.
mean, that's a haul.
Right,
Yeah.
they need to.
But
that's
see,
where
what
the
he's
east
talking
west-
about is
What
the
I'm
most
saying is,
northern
up here, I don't want to run 2 buses up here. Down here, I completely agree with you.
You're right.
That's why I said, let's look at
This
which
group up
portion
here,
goes to Leesville High.
absolutely, they ought to keep going to Wakefield.
So just to make sure I'm capturing this for everyone, we're talking about like here, right?
All of the north of Durham Road.
Durham
There you
Road's
go.
down.
Yeah, you're
Right,
right.
Durham
all
Road.
of that
So
stuff,
Is this little chunk right here?
Would be
North
what?
of Durham Road and
one bus,
east of Creedmoor
Yeah.
would apply to Durant. Is that what I hear you saying? North of Durham Road and east of Creedmoor, southeast road would
Yes.
apply to
North
Durant.
south.
Kevin is saying he likes east to west of Creedmoor. And I'm saying I'm okay with that up and to Durham Road, so yes.
Yes.
So you're saying above Durham
What-
Road?
I think we're saying
Above
the same
Durham,
thing.
above Durham Road,
No.
everybody should go to
Okay.
Durant.
Right.
So we're only sending 1 bus up there.
Right.
Because if we send 2 buses up Creedmoor Road, that's crazy.
I don't know that that's one bus in terms of.
Yeah, we don't know
numbers of
that.
students.
We don't know that.
Where
We
were the
can't-
neighborhoods that were complaining about?
I don't think the buses should drive this conversation. I'm
These-
sensitive to it, but I would not want the buses to drive this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm trying to make the logical feeders drive a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think what we have
Which
is
is
a
why I like
tension
east west of Creedmoor,
between the
because it's
middle
up here.
school, high school feeder matches, West Millbrook, I'm assuming to Millbrook, Wakefield to Wakefield, and trying to align elementary, middle school count.
Mhm.
So I like that, the fact that you're given, that we're doing the middle school year-rounds as an option in this corridor. I think that's important, but I kind of like the simplicity of West Millbrook, Pine Hollow, Wakefield, Durant, but I don't know how that, if that
Yeah, I don't know
number,
if that ends up sending.
if that, what that creates.
Can we
But
come?
Green option.
Well,
Yes.
and it's back, to me, to the alignment with the high schools.
That's right.
Mhm.
When you look north of Durham Road, regardless of Creedmoor, but north of Durham, what high schools are those kids going to? Now,
We've got that, but I want to answer, you had a question a second ago that I meant to touch on too. We've heard a lot from right up in here
right,
about the
Right.
distance to Pine Hollow and the distance to Durant. It's right up in here, and these people have a Wake Forest address,
right,
because the Wake Forest zip code runs all the way.
right.
Okay, but we all know Wake Forest is over here.
Yeah.
But they do have a Wake Forest zip code, okay? But these are the ones we're hearing about the distance.
Okay.
Mike says he's got the high school information.
Yes, if you look at the left map, below Pleasant Union attendance boundary and west of Creedmoor.
This is,
That's it.
that's Leesville.
Leesville High School.
Okay,
That's-
so
Just
does
that.
Pleasant Union not have Leesville at all?
It's most of it.
Tiny bit,
Where?
Yeah, it's a tiny bit.
In here somewhere?
yeah.
Something like
Right in here somewhere. Everybody else is Millbrook?
Yes.
Okay.
And that.
It's
So
like
Leesville
essentially
High
like
School
Pleasant.
is right in here in south. Everybody else,
I wanna-
Millbrook.
I want to make sure.
Millbrook
Or
or
Wakefield.
or
The top-
Wakefield?
the top
Blue
has
part
Wakefield.
has Wakefield, but
Yeah.
purple has.
I'm sorry, my mistake. Mike?
It's Wakefield on the top, there's the Pleasant Union in between Durham Road, and the bottom of Pleasant Union is split about 50-50 to
Okay.
Millbrook, and then Leesville to the south.
And that's kind of a roughly north-south split.
Everybody got that?
That complicates things even further.
And who are the high schools?
Well, we
So
had.
it doesn't even line
right.
up with the
Well,
pre.
It's the high school up here.
So So
Wakefield.
Kevin, so I hear Mr. Hill wanting the Creedmoor as the divider, that's option 2. But that the
But
base
north and left
assignment stays
is
the
still
same.
Wakefield High School too, right?
Mike, let me go over this one more time, tell me I'm right or
So
wrong.
north and west of
Up
Creedmoor Road, you
here
want to split
is
middle school?
Wakefield,
Correct.
all right? When you get in here, it's kind of split right around the middle, you said.
That's right.
South is Leesville,
Yeah.
and right in here is Millbrook.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we can't really satisfy that at
Yeah,
this
we
point in
can't,
time.
we can't satisfy
That's
that.
sort of off the table.
So,
Well, so are
What's
you
up?
offering another option and do nothing?
Match up with the
Well-
high school thing.
just attention,
But I'll just say that I do agree in general with keeping the base assignments what they are
Yeah.
and giving
The calendar.
Pine Hollow and whatever as the counter option. So do we all sort of?
Okay.
So-
we
What
have
option
that
is that?
consensus.
So let me-
Is that
let me
another
just-
option?
Give a little clarification, make sure that we're all on the same page.
yeah.
I know
So-
there's more than one option.
So
under that.
maintaining the base assignment as a traditional middle school, what currently is, stays the same.
Right.
So now then, the calendar option becomes either Pine Hollow or Durant. We know that, we just haven't decided which where.
Based on what?
Okay.
Based on,
Which.
So then that's the last
Algebra
piece.
But it's got, that piece has got to be
Salary is
both
good.
geography and high school assignment, because I think it'd be nuts to have calendar assignments split and then reshift to high school.
But without changing high schools at this point in time, which I assume none of us would be
No.
in favor of doing, we
Right.
can't fix that this time.
Well.
But the high
we have to
school,
draw
the
something
high
different
school
from what we-
divider is basically Durham Road, isn't it?
I don't think
No,
so.
no.
I think they're south of it.
It's 3 high schools,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
You got
I was like, we
Wakefield,
Wakefield,
Millbrook, Leesville.
Millbrook,
And his,
Leesville.
right.
Right, and I understand that. So the east of Creedmoor Road, I'm okay with, except for up there in the upper wing. That upper wing, I think I'm having a hard time understanding why we would send that to Pine Hollow when they are already going to Wakefield High School.
we don't want to do that.
It's a
Okay.
calendar
That's
option.
not what I want to do.
It's a
that.
calendar
Yeah.
option, we're not changing.
But even
it.
in a calendar
Calendar
option, you've got 2 calendar options up there. We're saying, aren't you saying west,
Assignments, so-
west
No, we're
of, are
simplifying.
you saying west of Creedmoor
No.
gets
Okay.
Pine Hollow and east of Creedmoor gets Durant?
That's what they
If they
offer.
want year round.
If they want your,
But,
So there has
but,
to be-
so if I live up in the upper left corner and I want year round, then I'm going to Pine Hollow
yes.
and then I'm going to Wakefield High School.
If you want year round.
Whereas
Or you
if
can go
everybody
to your
up there-
Traditional calendar.
And go to
If
work.
everybody was going to Durant and Wakefield, then I minimize the division up in that area.
So what's the elementary in that top left?
Here,
Yeah, what's the elementary
this
there?
is all Pleasant Union,
Yeah.
outlined in purple, from Pleasant Union.
That's all what we're looking for.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was,
I was like, it was thrown off.
Yeah, that's a little.
So
divider.
the example that Dr. Martin is speaking of would be the potential for a family to be in,
Yes.
I guess they would be year-round elementary.
Pleasant Union.
Then they would be fed to a traditional middle, and then fed to a traditional high school would be the natural trajectory. If the family is in a year-round elementary Pleasant Union base and they choose the year-round middle, then they're fed to a traditional base. But that happens for every single year-round middle school that we have because all of our high schools are traditional.
Right, right.
And that would
I don't
happen
think he's
only with a
talking-
choice.
I'm not talking calendar, I'm talking
He's not
geography.
calendar.
Okay.
All right, so,
Geography, transportation efficiency.
so I hear, from Mr. Hill support number,
Why do you
Option
like, I
two.
just want to understand why Kevin likes the east-west more than the north-south. I don't have a preference, I just would like to understand.
Proximity. And making changes that could potentially free some seats at Leesville Middle.
They could potentially do what?
Free some seats maybe at Leesville Middle.
open some seats.
Open, free, yeah, open up some. And for capacity, I'm not sure it's something we need to do this year. We're gonna be dealing with students out of every year, to be perfectly honest. And that gives us an opportunity to see what parents pick, what options in terms of year-round.
I see what you're saying. I got you.
It doesn't make sense to have two
Um,
calendar options there.
And
Because all
the
the.
truth of the matter is, does Durant have capacity still?
That would be my
So
next
both,
question.
I
as
think
far
both
as
of
time.
Durant's have
And here's
high
where I'm
numbers.
going.
Well,
If Durant has
Especially
capacity,
that these folks need one counter option, those folks. need-
Durant
then
is-
if you were assigned, if Pine Hollow was your year-round assigned school, you could request a transfer to Durant if you provide your own transportation.
I do think it's important that a portion of the base, the traditional base, has Pine Hollow as a calendar option in order to have an appropriate number of students having the option or base assigned to fill a year-round middle school.
And how many kids are we talking about up in that area? I mean, do they really affect what you would just say?
On the next page, we have the breakdown of the children that attend a year-round school on page 12, or excuse me, page 10. Just double check this.
10?
Yeah, slide 10. Back up one. If you look down here, it tells you the calendar option children, that there are 19 up here that attend Durant, and there are 57 down here that currently attend Durant.
Did we have enough information on our online thing to indicate if this group of parents to the west of Creedmoor, north of Durham, were stating any kind of a preference? It looks like to me there's advantages and disadvantages whichever way we go.
So isn't there advantage of, I mean, I think we're all in favor of leaving the base assignments as they are.
Yeah.
Right, we've agreed on
Okay.
that.
Shouldn't the calendar options go with the bases? Because otherwise, then we have, you know,
Well,
let's take the West Millbrook base. Should they, why don't they have one calendar option, the Wakefield base have another calendar option?
Well, I don't
As
think we do
opposed
that
to
anyway.
throwing in a more complicating matrix that basically says, now West Millbrook can go two different places, Wakefield can go two different places.
Well, we're not saying they can go two different places. We're assigning them right now. We're just questioning where are we assigning them to if they want year-round.
They're each gonna have
Because
one.
you've always got traditional
Right.
middle schools whose feeders go to different year-rounds if they choose to do it, or even assigned to do it.
I believe the
Because
entire,
year-rounds are more regional.
I believe the entire area right now is calendar option middle school to Durant. So what you're doing is leaving a portion at Durant and assigning a portion as the calendar option to Pine Hollow.
And you're
And
just
a
saying
big
that.
part of
And I'm
those
saying you
requested
do
Pine
that
Hollow.
based on your
Yeah.
base.
I mean, it looked like to me it's that the Pleasant Union people were sort of split half and half for year-round, whether they wanted Durant or Pine Hollow.
Yeah, that's what we're
But this
trying
does
to
seem like
figure
a
out.
simpler.
Who were
But
they?
it seems split
This
this
is
way,
what-
or
in terms of
split-
proximity, that makes sense too.
Okay, so we're running, I do want, looking at time, I'm getting a little anxious.
I think it might be
Yeah.
something
Can I ask Kevin
Go
a
right
simple
ahead, yes.
question?
Ms.
Okay.
Adams.
So Kevin, is
Back to
it,
go to-
I don't know where the hell we are.
is it?
We're between options 2 and 3.
Two
The
and three.
traditional stand,
Kevin, is it your understanding, because you know this area better than I do, that if we do the Creedmoor Road division,
All the way out.
the east-west division, is it that area west of Creedmoor that's assigned to Leesville right now?
No, leave
No.
one just a
No, I'm
corner
concerned
of
about
it.
filling, we need to be concerned about
But
filling
he was
Pine
saying
Hollow.
something about
Yeah.
giving more
And
relief
having
to
options.
agents. So I'm trying to figure that out.
No, well, I thought, all right, maybe we're all talking several different things. I thought we had agreed, base is gonna stay base.
Correct.
And the only discussion at this point was whether Creedmoor is going to be divided all the way up, or if north of Durham that whole section goes to Durant for their calendar option. Is that what you're talking about, Jim?
I would put north of Durant all one place.
North
Which
of
therefore,
Durham?
I'm sorry, north of Durham is all one place.
So
That would be
we-
Durant.
the only
And
part we're
because
really
that
talking
whole group
about
goes with Wakefield.
is that little area up there. Follow Durham Road across Creedmoor. All right, that, just there. That's all we're really talking about of what we're gonna do with.
To the left of Creedmoor.
Yes,
Left of
because we've
Creedmoor.
agreed that to the east of Creedmoor, it's gonna go to Durant. And what Jim is proposing is that because of busing routes and traffic patterns, that west of Creedmoor, in that area only, go to Durant. Everything else we've agreed to.
So south of Durham is gonna do Pine Hollow?
But if we're gonna do that,
That's what I'm trying to
Seems
do,
like
that's
we just
Pine Hollow
matched.
option.
why don't we
Creed-
just match with the current basis, because that's pretty close to that.
Well, that's sort of.
That seems the simplest thing to
I
me.
would match, my first choice would be match with the current basis. If we've got to do the east of Creedmoor Road, I'm okay with that if that upper wing stays with Durant.
It's very much.
But I think matching bases makes the most sense.
So I think we've narrowed down now to two, either, option 3, is that the one that's the north-south divider?
Yes.
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 Option 3, as is, or option 2 with the caveat that this little section up here that's currently Durant, north of Durham, west of Creedmoor, stay Durant.
So that's option 3 essentially.
Well, 3 is everything north-south.
Three is stick with base.
3 aligns the base to a calendar option.
Right.
Right.
Or 2
Or 2 with
with
a
this
modification.
wing.
I guess I'm
Shift
saying
over.
I'm in favor of the simplest, which is 3, rather than shifting this
I
corner.
can support 3.
I mean, that becomes option 4 for 5.
Yeah.
I think 3 makes the most sense.
So, those who, I'm hearing some consensus for option 3, Ms. Johnson, Hosser, Ms. Evans, myself, anyone
If
else?
we do that.
Mr. Hill, what were you,
Yeah, but
you
where
want?
would you just,
I'm confused about Durham, where we are with,
up here, where would you draw the line?
Right now,
who
every-
has the option of Pleasant, of Pine Hall?
North
north of Durham and east of Creedmoor is Durant.
That's what I was over here adding
Yes.
clarification on right
Yes.
now.
Okay.
So the
If-
only
if we
thing,
go
we're-
up-
again, that we're talking about
Is
is
that-
north of Durham and west of Creedmoor.
That's what I was trying to
That little
figure out.
area.
Just talking
And
about
am I outlining it
No,
correctly?
no.
No,
Here,
which
here.
one is it?
Going up, right up through here.
Just that
Just-
piece.
you just have the four,
That's Creedmoor, yeah.
you just have the 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3 would apply to Durant, and 4 would apply to Pine Hollow.
That would be the
Is
modified
that-
2.
That's,
I'm
that's none of that, the options that
that's
are
not
in the
here,
packet.
right.
Okay. We've
Right.
come
That's the
up with a-
modified 2.
But I think it's what,
Modified.
That's the modified 2.
Okay.
okay,
I'm
I
okay with
think
modified
there's a
2, I'm
consensus
okay with
around
3.
okay.
Wait,
But what does modified 2 accomplish that 3 doesn't? I'm just trying to.
It just takes that sliver up there where it's
No.
not very, it's sparsely populated.
Modified 2.
Right here.
It takes the,
Modified 2 splits down here
And Durham.
at Creedmoor Road. 2 splits.
I understand
this-
modified 2 versus 2. I'm asking what's the significant difference between modified 2 and 3?
Because modified 2 has the folks south of Creedmoor and, I'm sorry, south of Durham and east of Creedmoor going to Durant. South of Creedmoor, south of Durham, west of Creedmoor going to Pine Hollow.
I don't think that's.
That's not
So-
going to be very many going to Pine Hollow.
I think
So option 3 sends more to Pine Hollow,
Right.
which is one of the things we need to do, because it's a brand new school and we have to fill it.
Okay.
Which is why I think 3 makes the most sense.
Okay.
But
so
if we've got to deal with the
I
east-west,
think we are,
I'm a 3.
I'm a 3.
So let's go, so who,
Solid 3.
so can I have a show of thumbs for option 3, which is align the base with the calendar option?
You can have the phone.
Okay,
All right, I think we're at 3.
so we're at 3.
We need the most consensus.
Okay. All right, we've got 2 more things to talk about. On page 12 in the presentation,
Yes.
we're opening Pleasant Grove Elementary, almost said Pleasant Union.
Yeah.
Pleasant Grove Elementary, and it's been built to relieve crowding at Briar Creek, at Leesville, and at Stow. We've drawn an attendance area that touches all three of those schools, and now the discussion is focused on Leesville. Leesville is currently at 137% utilization, and this assignment changes will bring them down to 100%. Remember, it doesn't happen overnight. Our goal would be to work that down slowly. There are 17 mobile units on the campus. Our goal would be to work that down to the 5 units that's in the planned capacity. Pleasant Grove, if nobody grandfathers and if no other changes happen other than we assign the students from Stow, Leesville, and Briar Creek to Pleasant Grove, they would open at 91%. But we all know there'll be grandfathering, so they're going to open lower than that. Okay. Staff believes this is the best assignment for the area for the opening of Pleasant Grove Elementary School.
And we have received a lot of feedback on this proposal. What would the outcome of a delay, is there beyond? We've considered delay, but it still is an overcrowded school, and it would just delay the.
Yes, we've got the brand new school ready. Joe, ready for the new school
Pleasant
year?
Grove.
Pleasant Grove, and we do really need to move forward with utilizing the new building.
Our rules about grandfathering when it's a new school are, remind me again. I think I know what they are, but I want to make sure.
Rising 4th and 5th graders are eligible to grandfather and their siblings. Okay, and remember, grandfathering is a transfer request. Parents would have to provide their own transportation to and from school each day.
One of the things that did strike a chord with me, well, there were lots of things that struck a chord, but one that, have we assessed the safety issues involved with the transportation patterns up in that area? That seems to be a big concern with the use of 540 and all of that, and at the times that we would be using it. Have we assessed what we're creating or what would most likely be our bus routes in that area?
We have looked at it. Bob Steinmiller and his team have looked at it, and they believe everything that we've looked at, everything consistent with the entire assignment plan, and all changes we believe can be accommodated.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
All of the proposed changes can be accommodated. Buses we currently have, certainly not a majority of our buses. I think the number might be in the 100 range of runs that are on interstate at this point.
Including the construction area.
Including 4 to
Yes.
5.
They are limited to 45 miles an hour when they are on the interstate. They are also required to have their flashers on because of safety precaution.
So David, related to that, can you tell us about how carpool traffic is evaluated in your safety analysis? Because clearly buses are what we have the direct responsibility for, but we know there's going to be a lot of other traffic as well. Is that part of the analysis of?
From a safety perspective, no, I would say not. That really is a product of the design of the school, ensuring that both yellow bus traffic, EC contract traffic, and parent traffic can have ingress and egress without conflict with each other.
Okay, so any transportation analysis for everybody with respect to assignment needs to be our discussion, I guess, more than transportation.
I would also add to that, when you talk about carpool stacking and stuff, if you're reducing the crowding at the school, you are improving the safety situation.
Yeah, I'm not talking about carpool stacking, I'm talking about the getting to the school,
All right.
which then gets to stacking, but it's, because that's what we've heard the concerns about.
And
is
there's
how do I get there?
And some construction that's near
Yeah, there will be
in
some
route?
construction for a short period of time on Westgate Road in which the rock quarry is expanding. They're sliding the road over. So it'll put a curve in the road, a little more of a curve than what is there today. I drive that road weekly. I live over in that area.
And that is a short-term project that starts.
But you have looked into that concern with DOT, and it's a short-term?
Transportation has talked to them
Okay.
as well.
And
Don't believe that was,
you do not think it will?
do not believe
okay.
that the construction to route, as Joe said, the road a little bit to accommodate the quarry.
Okay.
Understanding that the construction, I believe as well, will not be done during the commuting hours, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Other questions on this portion?
And I'm sorry, you did ask a question about what a delay did. And that was when you gave the answer right now. If everybody goes where they're supposed to go, Pleasant Grove would be at 91%, but we know not everybody's going to go. So for anything we do to delay, expand the grandfather grades, will reduce capacity at
Utilization, reduce utilization, yes.
Pleasant
Yes.
Grove, I'm sorry.
All right, other questions or? All right, I don't see much leeway to, we don't have many options. But we had utilized options in draft 3. So we were able to make some adjustments in that area. So I do appreciate that staff was able to respond to some concerns in that area.
Okay. One last discussion item has to do with the Briar Creek area and wanting a viable middle school traditional calendar option. The Briar Creek Elementary, of course, is year-round. For middle school, they're currently assigned to Mills Park traditional. With the opening of Pine Hollow, we are proposing that they be based at Pine Hollow Middle. But there are many families who want a traditional middle school calendar option. And we believe we'll have that available for them at Leesville. If you look at the data, Leesville is currently at 165% utilization. If all the assignment changes happen and nobody makes any choices, we will bring them down to 106%. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. They have 16 mobile units on their campus. We are not going to remove them tomorrow. We will have room. We'll wait and see what the choices are to be sure that we can accommodate all the families in the area in their calendar choices.
And the
Okay.
change that the board made earlier with the base assignments staying the same for Pleasant Union will support additional seats at Leesville Road as well,
That will help.
for the
That
middle
will help.
school.
All right, any questions on that portion? That's one question on Leesville Elementary. What time does the lunch start at Leesville?
Lunch? I can't remember, it's a long lunch, but I can't remember what it is.
So, I mean, because of the overcapacity.
Yes, yeah.
That's why I'm asking. Because it starts early, someone was telling me that it's.
Yeah, those are the impacts when you're that crowded on a
Yes,
core
I know.
facility is the length of time that it takes for things like lunch.
But speaking of times, and that's another issue that we've heard from some people, is conflicting start times. So we're not ready to discuss bell schedules at this point, but we may need to look at compatibility of bell schedules, because some people, I think, legitimately say, if I've got to go here and here, I can't have them both be at the same time. So I think these assignment issues need to inform our discussion about bell schedules. I don't know what
For
we'll
car
do.
riders.
For car riders, yeah. For bus riders, it doesn't matter,
Right.
but we've got a lot of car riders, and we have to pay attention to that.
Efficient transportation.
Efficiency would be everybody on the yellow bus.
And I appreciate the work on the proposal. These are hard decisions.
Mhm.
I was just
We
gonna
get a
say-
lot of feedback, a lot of it conflicting. We work hard to listen. We've listened to feedback since August as a board, as staff. I appreciate the changes we've been able to make to this proposal, because I think we've been responsive to to the data we received. We've looked hard at numbers. I think we've also worked hard to be collaborative with staff and the community in hearing concerns and addressing them when we have capacity. But as we've gone over these numbers, in some places the capacity doesn't allow for many changes from what we proposed. So, thank you. Any further comments? Does the board feel we have consensus going forward on this current plan as we discussed? Yes, Mr. Finch?
No, mine was just a side.
So we will bring,
Any other?
with the revisions around the Pleasant Union Middle School base and calendar options that were made today, we will bring the final enrollment plan for a board vote as an action item at the December 1st.
December 1st. With that, nothing more on our work session agenda. We're adjourned to our action meeting. Thank you. to our council. Good afternoon. Welcome to the board meeting this evening. We've got a quorum. If you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome. Good evening. I wanted to congratulate Rolesville High School. It is the latest and newest accredited high school in Wake County, having successfully completed their advanced ed accreditation last week. At the end of their third year, the evaluators said Rolesville's teachers clearly cared about their students and that they were creating a student-centric environment. So I really appreciate hearing that feedback from the accreditation team, and also congratulate Principal Erica Lucas and the teachers and administrators there for creating a student-focused culture at Rolesville High. Congratulations to them. We've also had a very busy month at the Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. Hosted a visit from Chelsea Clinton talking about her new book, It's Your World, and it was filled with stories about young people changing the world, seeing problems in the world and addressing them. So it was and the students were impressive. Ms. Clinton was very impressed by their questions and their engagement and enjoyed her visit there. Also pleased last week to attend the Advocates for Health in Action, their Safe Routes to Schools initiative. And it was striking to me to learn that in 1969, when I walked to school, 56% of students walked or rode their bikes to school. And today that figure is 13%. And that's national. In North Carolina, it's even lower. It's 9%. And that even of students who live half a mile or lower or closer to school, only about half walk or bike to school because of the lack of sidewalks, traffic, other barriers that stand in their way. So this was a really innovative workshop where both our staff, municipal leaders, county leaders, as well as Advocates for Health in Action were there giving ideas of a moving school bus where parents park nearby and walk their child to school and get activity for their children. So it's a really great seminar, and I hope that PTAs and schools will reach out to AHA and learn some, and to our staff members and learn some strategies for improving activity amongst our children getting to and from school. And speaking of partners like AHA, tonight we're honoring our PTA. We're going to hear from our PTA council president, but we value greatly the partnership we have with our PT and PTSAs. They bring family involvement to education, and we're fortunate to have a very active PTA council here in Wake County and a family of very active PTAs in our schools. We value them greatly. We rely on our PTAs to connect our teachers, administrators, and students and staff to our parents, and our schools receive significant financial support and volunteer support throughout Wake County from our PTAs. Advocacy work of PTA at a county and state and national level is also valuable. They speak out for all children and for the inclusion of all children in their advocacy efforts. And as a board, and certainly speaking as a recovering PTA president, I value what PTAs do in Wake County. So a shout out to every PTA volunteer leader who helps every single one of our children here in Wake County. With that, I'll turn to our comments from our superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, public. I've been gratified to see how quickly and enthusiastically our employees have set about the work of implementing the strategic plan. Thanks to Beth Hodge and Karen Hamilton for coordinating training sessions for our central office staff. Last Friday, they hosted 4 sessions on the strategic plan objectives of balanced assessment, learning and teaching, community engagement, and human capital. The sessions helped our central office staff gain a deeper understanding of their role in achieving these objectives, which push us toward our overarching goal of annually graduating at least 95% of students by 2020. Another training day is scheduled for December 4, and there will be separate sessions for our staff members at the Rock Quarry Road facility. It's exciting and rewarding work, but it's still work. And I'm proud of our staff's commitment to doing whatever it takes to ensure that all students are successful. Anyone who would like to learn more about that strategic plan, please visit the website pennyroad.net/strategicplan. Last week, many of you and I had the honor of attending the Veterans Day celebration, in my case at Penny Road Elementary alongside State Superintendent June Atkinson. Music teacher Yvonne Cook directed Penny Road students in excellent renditions of patriotic music. Slideshow accompanied by bagpipes live by a retired Master Sergeant, honored family members, close friends, and community members who served our country. Penny Road students raised $250 in their Penny campaign and presented the commanding officer of the USS North Carolina with a check to contribute to restoration of the battleship. Penny Road was also presented with an original American flag which had flown over the USS North Carolina. Penny Road students also presented the Raleigh USO with hundreds of pieces of candy collected at our school to forward to deployed folk. Penny Road was just one of many schools in our district that shared their talents in treasuring and honoring our veterans, employees, children, family members, all. And to all those schools and folks last week who recognized veterans, on their behalf, we thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Now move to our board member comments. Ms. Johnson-Hostler.
Thank you. I will take a moment to reflect on the last 2 days. I was looking for the adjective driving back. I think I've decided on the adjective nostalgic a little bit. I'm from Thomasville, North Carolina. I'm a product of a single parent home. And all of that's important because this week, for the last 2 days, we've been at the School Board Association's conference, and my home school system presented in several workshops. And I got the opportunity to talk to my then past elementary school principal, who, by the way, he noticed me. I didn't realize it was him. He had a beard. He didn't have that or gray. I said to him when I was in kindergarten. But I went into one of their sessions, and they are one of the poorest cities. Still, all the furniture industry have left the community, and so it prompted me to drive through Thomasville before I came back today. And the community was indeed very desolate, not like I remember it as a child, and now I've been gone almost 20 years I've been gone out of Thomasville. But it was a reminder for me that our state has put letter grades on our schools. And the superintendent was talking about it was a low-performing school when I went in 1993, which I was like, really? And I thought of the word nostalgic because it made me realize that in 1993, when I graduated from high school, I didn't know what kind of school system I was going to. I knew that I had people who cared about me, and I knew that I had people who believed in me, and hence I sit here today, not because I knew what letter grade the school system had. And so for me, it's a reminder for our state and our families to realize that I think it's better off if children don't know what the state thinks of our school, because they are able to go to that school, feel a part of that community, and do what the people in that building want them to do. And so that's my message to our state legislators, and hopefully many parents will carry that there's some things that children actually are better off if they don't know.
Thank you.
And lastly, I want all of you to know that my BAC is Thursday at 5:30 at Ballantyne Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Thank you,
I'll
Ms.
be brief
Johnson-Hostler.
tonight. Again, our time together at the North Carolina School Boards Association I found to be entertaining and challenging. And our last speaker today, before we left to come back to work here, was really talking about the brain and how the necessity of early socialization and the necessity of young people hearing words from a human face in person. The sounds that come out are part of building the neural networks in their brains, and we've heard also in a different venue of the difference in a child. There's something like a $30 million word difference by the age of 4 between the words that a child who lives in poverty hears and the words that a child who lives in middle America hears. And it's just that this science and this backgrounds just keep starting to speak to me in terms of the necessity of us communicating with our early childhood people and us dealing with the early childhood issues that show up as problems in 3rd and 4th and 5th grade and beyond. And so I'm proud of what the board has done in our last budget in terms of expanding opportunities for early childhood. I think we've got to look at that as a community as we move forward. And how do we take the available science and resources and just energize our community around the issues of exposing very young people to language. So I'll kind of leave it at that, and say that after having met with 500 board members from around the state, I'm very excited about the caliber of work this board does and the comity and collaboration that we have, even though we come at this practice from different points of view and different experience sets, and the ability, the quality of work that we do. And I appreciate that and reflected upon that during our convention this weekend. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Ms. Evans.
Thank you. I share some of those same feelings as Mr. Fletcher, also returning from 2.5 days at the North Carolina School Boards Association. One of the most enjoyable parts of that for me every year is to be able to interact with other school board members from across the state and other districts and talk about things that they're working on, ideas that they have, challenges that they face that often are quite typical, different from ours. I sat next to a lady on Sunday night at a dinner who's from a county whose entire population is 25,000 people, Anson County. Well, that's quite a different perspective, but we were able to talk about things and compare notes about how we approach education initiatives, and it's really good to get those different perspectives. We also had some excellent keynote speakers. Mr. Fletcher highlighted the one today on Monday. We heard from Bill Curry, former NFL player and coach, and it was just an extremely motivational talk about how we need to come together around ideas and learn to work together for the positive good, both amongst ourselves as boards and with those others in the community that we must work with, our legislators or whoever. And he talked from all his experiences, having been part of teams, and which coaches had motivated him and how, and the things that he saw that were most effective. And so I found that to be almost a spiritual experience. I don't know about the rest of them, but he is amazing. I encourage anyone to seek out Bill Curry. If he has any speeches online or anything, I found it to be just very, very good material. And with that, I'll just end that I also have a BAC meeting coming up on Monday, November 23rd. That will be at 5:30 p.m. at Apex Middle School. Anyone in the community is welcome to join. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hill.
As the others, I'm appreciative of the opportunity to go to the State School Boards Association annual meeting. It's gratifying and reinforcing to see my colleagues and how they delve into the various workshops that we have, the opportunity to talk to other board members from around the state. And part of the reward, I think, is to look at how here in Wake County, I think we do a pretty good job in terms of the collegiality, but how we attack positions and wear the professional hat and keep the personal hat separate, because there are quite a few counties where we talked with some board members that's not quite happening right now. So I want to thank my colleagues for their professionalism as well, and for the opportunity to attend this year.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Benton?
Thank you. My congratulations also to Roseville High School for achieving accreditation. It was, I understand it was a fantastic visit. Was sorry I could not be there to take part in my part of it last Friday. But again, congratulations to the staff and administration for all the hard work that went into making that happen. This Thursday night at 6:30 at East Wake High School, there's a meeting of the East Wake Working Group that is doing some of the most exciting work that I've ever seen going on in public education. After watching what happened in Nightdale over the last 2 years, it's been very fulfilling and exciting to see what can happen when you have visionary leadership and people on staffs and communities that want to pitch in, roll up their sleeves, and talk about what they can do to make the schools in their areas better for our young people. So again, it's 6:30 at East Wake High School, and that is all of the Eastern Wake schools, not just the high school, although the high school is hosting these meetings. So, Mr. Austin, Principal, I'm looking forward to hearing the plans that you've been working on for the last 6 months or so.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Martin.
Thank you. First, I want to say that I had a lot of fun last week. I was able to be the guest speaker for the induction of about 80 students into the National Science Honor Society at Heritage High School. It was great to see these young kids with interest in science. It's fun to blow their mind a little bit, asking questions. Sometimes we get the idea that science is learning what is known, and science is at least as much, if not more, about asking the question. And to watch kids' faces when they discover that some of the things they thought they knew still have questions to be answered. That's I guess why I stay in teaching. Then last Friday I got to be the teacher down at Holly Springs High School with one of their chemistry classes. One of the teachers that I work with in the professional development program invited me down to work with her students for class. And again, it's a lot of fun working with students, challenging what's known and helping teach them that science is about asking the question. Somewhat related to that, I'll share from the North Carolina School Boards Association meeting. One of the breakout sessions I went to was one looking at using data in your schools. And you all know that I'm a data junkie. But I also can get cynical when, I can get cynical. But when people are talking about using data for everything, because oftentimes that becomes a bit of a cliche. But I thought I'd go to this breakout to see what they were talking about in terms of using data. And I was pleasantly surprised with the absolute high quality of this session. And the presenter ask the audience, so if you're having a data meeting at your school, what's the first thing that you should do? And of course, everybody gave sort of standard kind of responses. And he shocked me and everybody else by saying the first thing you should do is take all the data that you've assembled and lock it in a safe. And then what you really should do, the first thing, which you should have done at first, initially, was ask the question. If you're just gathering data and you haven't asked the question that you're trying to gather data for, you've got a useless exercise. You've put stuff together in bar graphs and try to explain this, that, or the other thing. But if you haven't formulated the question, data is useless and irrelevant. And so his strategy is first ask the question, then establish what are the metrics that you're going to use to evaluate and answer that question, then gather the evidence, then review the data and the evidence with respect to the question that you asked, evaluate and interpret it, create an action plan, and then you're back around the cycle where you ask the new question. That, frankly, is the scientific method. That's how data should be used. Great strategy. So as we think about data, until we have asked the question, let's lock it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to my colleagues. And I should have mentioned also that District 6 is having a BAC meeting Monday at noon at Brentwood Elementary. So everyone is welcome to that in District 6. So with that, we turn to our agenda approval. There is one change that's been requested on the agenda that we move under academic advancement that's on the consent. Item A, approval of low-performing schools final SIP plans in accordance with general statute. We're moving that to action. That's been a request. So is there a motion to approve the agenda with that revision?
I move approval of the agenda as amended.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. So we now have an agenda before us, and the first item up is a recognition. So we'll start off strong with Employee Excellence Awards for November. Oh, public comment. I apologize. Sorry, Dr. Merrill. I was skipping ahead. We'll still start with something positive. We've got, I apologize, we've got public comment, and we have 8 speakers. Our first speaker is Hardin Engelhardt, followed by Amanda Nahela.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hardin Engelhardt. I'm the president of the Wake County PTA Council. I'd like to acknowledge several other members of our board that are here as well tonight. And thank you for the opportunity to have this membership event here with you all tonight. We are thankful that the superintendent, the Board of Education, and the leadership team here are also supportive of all the PTAs that we have all across Wake County. We appreciate those of you who have demonstrated your support by joining PTAs tonight or earlier in the year, and we invite anyone here tonight who has not yet joined a local PTA unit to visit with us outside and join a PTA. Wake County PTA Council is an umbrella organization that provides services to local units throughout Wake County. Our mission is to unify, promote, and strengthen the PTA units of Wake County. PTA stands for Parent Teacher Association, but at many schools in Wake County, students are also involved, and so those are known as PTSAs. And you may not know that when you become a member of your local PTA unit that you are also becoming a member of the state and national PTA. So your membership isn't just a sign of your support for your child and your school, but it's actually a tool to drive advocacy efforts across the state and nation. And higher membership numbers allow us to have an even bigger influence at the General Assembly and in Congress. This year alone, for example, the North Carolina PTA successfully lobbied for increased textbook funding and to restore driver's education funding. So we thank you all for adding your membership and your voice. If any of you on the board or in the audience, like I said, have not yet joined a PTA, we'd love for you to unite with us. You can also visit our website at www.wakepta.org for contact information. And again, a thanks to all of you for serving, for your unwavering support of our schools and our students. We appreciate your efforts and are here to support you in any way that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Amanda Nahila, followed by Sherry Gentry Gasper. And I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
That's okay.
All
You
right.
did a pretty good job.
Okay.
My name is Amanda Nahila, and I'm here about the proposed change in our enrollment for my neighborhood. I could point out that there's going to be an increased travel distance and time, and increased carbon emission and fuel costs, which are all valid points to make because we are way out on the corner of Wake Forest and Wake County. So right now the proposal has us changing to a year-round middle school where we have traditionally been on a traditional calendar, and it feels kind of like we're being pushed to the year-round because our other option, which has been listed as Leesville Middle, which is, I believe, at about 150% capacity. So I wonder if that's truly a viable option as a traditional, and why we couldn't keep Wakefield as our traditional, since that's where all of us will be heading for high school. And I know personally, I will already have children in Wakefield at the high school, and then I have a rising middle schooler. So if he ends up over in the Leesville area, I'm going to be pulled in 2 separate directions, both getting them there, or if there's any kind of family emergency. Doing any kind of after-school activities is going to be limited by my ability to get from one side of town to the other. And I also have a very valid concern about time on the bus. Wakefield right now is only about 10 miles from our house, and my daughters sometimes spend over an hour on the bus on their way home. If you add another 7 miles in a much more congested area with many more lights, I'm concerned that it could go beyond 2 hours. And I know last year they were on the bus sometimes for an hour and a half. So I feel like that 2-hour mark is definitely a realistic concern. So I just wanted to make sure my voice was heard, and I know others in our neighborhood. I understand the reason and the need for more year-round schools, but I just wanted to make sure that we have a viable traditional option, because 3 years of children on different schedules has me at about my breaking point. With dealing with 3 more years is just going to send me into a breakdown. So I just wanted to voice our concerns, and I know there are other parents in our neighborhood who were looking forward to moving to that traditional calendar as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sherry Gentry Gasper, followed by Tracy Spruill. Yeah. And Ms. Nahilo, I'll ask that you look at the updated plan that we looked at. Okay. Well, we should post that update soon. Thank you. So Ms. Sherry Gentry Gasper. Thank you, Dr. Martin. Ms. Gentry Gasper, last call. Tracy Spruill, followed by Charity Potts Rawls.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tracy Spruill. I've been a teacher for 24 years. 14 of those years has been in Wake County, and I'm currently a teacher, a second grade teacher at Wake County Public Schools under the leadership of Ms. Martin at Walnut Creek Elementary. I'm along with 12 other staff members and parents, which I'd like for them to stand, are here tonight to support an alternate learning calendar, which is a single track 4. We are here to give several reasons this calendar will work for our boys and girls at Walnut Creek. I had the opportunity for 3 years to work at a year-round school in Walnut Creek, and it was great for me and my students. My students retained more information that I taught during the 9 weeks when they returned out the track out than all I needed to do a quick review. Also, students were more prepared for the next grade because they had less time to forget important materials taught than they might have done over a long summer break. Students' performance overall will increase. Students retain information better with a shorter break, requiring less review time at the beginning of a next school year. It also gives boys and girls an opportunity for private tutoring as well as remediation that was offered while students were tracked out. In my class, it helped increase attendance. Frequent breaks gave great opportunities for students to come back, recharge, ready to learn, not feeling burnt out. How does this help our teachers at Walnut Creek? Teachers will have planning time throughout the year that allows them to prepare better for the need of each student. Teachers will have the opportunity to help students in a smaller setting where remediation, can take place. Teachers will have time to collaborate with other teachers during time away from school on any given subject. Teachers now do not become burnt out. We are now the energized bunny because we have been recharged. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on the subject that I and the staff of Walnut Creek feel passionate about. Please consider allowing Walnut Creek Elementary to become a single-track year-round calendar for the 2016-2017 school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spruill. Charity Potts Rawls is our next speaker, followed by Eugenia Powell.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I too work at Walnut Creek Elementary School, and I've never had the opportunity to work at a year-round school, but we all kind of know the research that goes behind year-round education for students. I know our students at Walnut Creek struggle a lot with retaining information, especially over like summer break. A lot of times they come back and they have regressed, and it's just very difficult for the teachers to try to help catch the students up to where they need to be. So I am here again with the Walnut Creek staff to petition for a year-round calendar track starting in the 2016 school year. please consider that for our students, also for our staff. We have a high turnover rate every year, and I believe it's due to teacher burnout, just because of the constant remediation that goes along with trying to help our students be where they need to be. So please, please consider the year-round track for our students starting in 2016 school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Eugenia Powell, followed by Marvin Pittman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Eugenia Powell, and I am the parent of a third grader at Walnut Creek Elementary. I am also currently one of 3 vice presidents at Walnut Creek Elementary. The other 2, can you please stand? We support this school with everything that we have. So when our kids went to kindergarten, so did we. We have been at Walnut Creek from the beginning. So what we want is for our opportunity to speak from a parent perspective. Since I am a vice president, 4th year at Walnut Creek, I have served 2 VP positions and 2 president positions. And we have the opportunity to speak to a lot of parents. And what I have heard from the parents is this: the 3-month summer break causes the student retention to suffer. The reason it does is because we're not learning during the summer. Some parents have the opportunity to, help with handbooks and give their kids busy work, but we don't have this student-teacher learning. And if we don't have that, our students will forget. Let me give an example of my son. When he left kindergarten and went to 1st grade, I gave him just a little refresher at the beginning of the year, and his B was backwards. Something easy to fix, but he would have never forgotten that had he had such a long summer. Another key point is shortening the breaks will improve their achievement. If they have more time in the classroom and less time at home watching TV, playing video games, these kind of things, then their achievement has to most definitely go up. We see it when you have extra tutoring for the child. Instead of extra tutoring, we're asking, during the summer months, we're asking for just one-on-one or the class, help with the students. If they're in that, classroom setting for more time with shorter breaks, then we will see the numbers that we expect that they can achieve, because we know that we can achieve. Also, the final point is we want to prevent our students as well as our teachers from being burnt out. We don't want unhappy teachers, because unhappy teachers are not going to teach good students. We want students that are always refreshed, always ready to go, and not burned out because they've been in school with no short break, and then give them a massive break at the end of the year. And also, as of last year, our teachers were surveyed and our parents were surveyed, and they want the year-round track 4. So thank you so much for the opportunity to listen to my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Our final speaker is Marvin Pittman.
Members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, thank you for allowing me to speak this afternoon. I heard you all mention the School Boards Association meeting. I too was there today. I want to thank Tom Benton for choosing to come to my session. The session dealt with the real reason the STEM and college pipelines are nearly empty. And we had some direct conversation about why that is. Tom, I'm hoping that you saw my name and then you said that might not be too bad and you came. I appreciate that. But the reason I'm here tonight is to talk to you just a bit about Walnut Creek Elementary School. It's really kind of odd that when Walnut Creek opened, it was open as a STEM school. is a STEM school. It is no longer a STEM school, and there are some reasons for that, but we won't bring that part into the conversation tonight. But here's what we do need to discuss. First of all, a few minutes ago, I sent most of you an email. Some of the emails went to superintendent staff and to most of the board members. The email dealt with an activity that occurred at Walnut Creek Elementary School about 10 days ago. It was a parent and a student night. And what it was it was focused on academics. I was in Connecticut, but people sent me a picture of what was happening at Walnut Creek. Mr. Superintendent, you got a copy of it. The room was full of parents and students, over 700. Why am I sharing that with you? Because what it does, it shows us that we can galvanize parents regardless of where the school is. It's about leadership, it's about commitment, and it's about wanting the school to be successful. The other reason I mention that is because the school has surveyed parents. They've asked parents, do you want to be in a year-round school? And guess what they said? You've heard people say it already. The answer was a resounding yes. Why? Because they understand the importance of not having that summer learning loss. When year-round schools first started in Wake County, and Jim knows this, I was on that committee. We talked about facility usage, but we also talked about interventions for students. The school needs that kind of a calendar. So my reason for coming tonight is to share with you that we support within the community. We support a different calendar for that school. We want to be able to support our children at Walnut Creek, and we believe we can do it through a more focused calendar that focuses in on academics. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our public comment. So thank you all for coming out tonight to provide those comments. So now we do turn to our recognition portion of our meeting, the Employee Excellence Awards for November 2015. Do you need to, Mr. Tillman, do you need to move that, sir? Are you all right?
I'll be okay if you guys are okay.
We're all right. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Good evening, Chair Kushner, members of the board, and Dr. Merrill. At this time, I would like to recognize the recipients of the November Employee Excellence Award. As you can see, we've packed the house again tonight as part of our strategic plan work on human capital. So I thank you for indulging us as we recognize these very valued employees. So employees, when I call your name, you'll greet Dr. Merrill and receive, or he'll start over here. He's in charge, so he gets to decide. And greet him and receive your award, and then stay up front, and we'll recognize you all at once together at the end. So, first up, Marshall Butler. Marshall is the choral director at Sanderson High School. For more than 20 years, Mr. Butler has taught students the joy of music. He has been recognized for excellence in music education at the local, state, and national levels, and he was among the first group of teachers to receive national board certification in music. In 2014, the North Carolina Symphony presented Mr. Butler with the Maxine Swalen Award. This October, he was inducted into the Wake Educational Partnership Hall of Fame. Mr. Butler's students have performed across the globe. Sanderson High School is fortunate to have such a talented educator. Marshall Butler from Sanderson High School. Next is a group of men led by James D'Angelo and his team of facility maintenance technicians. Gentlemen, Mr. D'Angelo included. Alex Hoffelt, Haristo Marona, and David Vasquez, who could not be here this evening, maintain the facilities at Green Hope High School. The principal of Green Hope refers to them as the facilities dream team. She describes their work as consistently solid and unbelievably timely. In the last 6 months, this team has completed over 4,000 work orders, always professionally done and with a smile.
Efficiency and excellent customer service is the reason why this team should be recognized for their Employee Excellence Award. And that's Facilities Maintenance Team led by James D'Angelo. Thank you, gentlemen. Next is Wanda Davis. Wanda is an operations manager in the transportation department. She is a valued member of the transportation team where she consistently serves as a leader. Recently, a parent recognized Ms. Davis as someone who deeply cares about students and serves them with great commitment and compassion. Wake County Schools and the Transportation Department appreciate Ms. Davis's dedication to making sure students are transported to their destinations safely and comfortably each day. Wanda Davis in Transportation. Next is Bridget Fogarty, a teacher assistant at Davis Drive Middle School. Ms. Fogarty works diligently to support the unique learning needs of her students. She is patient, flexible, and kind, and strives to develop positive working relationships with students and staff. Ms. Fogarty advocates for her students, and due to her support, students are able to thrive in an energetic, supportive, and productive learning environment. Davis Drive Middle School is thankful for her dedication. Ms. Fogarty is an excellent employee and truly models the characteristics worthy of recognition. Bridget Fogarty from Davis Drive Middle School. Next is Kendra Gray. Kendra is the head custodian at Lead Mine Elementary School. Ms. Gray works diligently to provide a clean, safe, and well-maintained environment that is conducive to effective teaching and learning for the students and staff. Frequently, parents and visitors compliment the cleanliness of the campus. Prior to any assembly or performance, Ms. Gray takes the initiative to fully prepare the room for the presenters and the audience. Lead Mine Elementary could not be the school it is without the support and dedication of Ms. Gray. Kendra Gray, Lead Mine Elementary School. Next is Karen Hammers, Media Assistant at Mills Park Elementary School. Karen is the heartbeat of the Media Center and contributes to creating a calm and caring atmosphere throughout the entire school and for all of the students. Ms. Hammers is a definite team player. Mills Park Elementary School is fortunate to have Ms. Hammers on their team serving the students each and every day. Karen Hammers from Mills Park Elementary School. And her fan club. Next is Mary Hill. Mary is a parent-teacher resource coordinator for Project Enlightenment. Ms. Hill is often one of the first faces young children and their families see as they become acquainted with our school district. She greets them with great warmth and helps them find appropriate books and resources. Ms. Hill coordinates activities at the center. She is always eager to help staff members and reaches out to the community as a volunteer. Ms. Hill exemplifies excellence in all aspects of her work and is truly deserving of this award. Mary Hill from Project Enlightenment. Next is Fran Holland, teacher assistant at Brooks Elementary School. In addition to her classroom responsibilities, Ms. Holland is always willing to assist with tasks, whether it is clerical work, working one-on-one with students, facilitating small group discussions, or supervising field trips. Her positive attitude is outstanding. She is always professional in her interactions with the Brooks family, and the school appreciates all that Ms. Holland does for the students of Brooks Elementary each and every day. Fran Holland from Brooks Elementary. Next is Amy Koo. Amy teaches music at Root Elementary School. In addition to her music classes, Ms. Koo plans amazing play productions for all students to have the opportunity to participate. During productions, Ms. Koo encourages her students to orchestrate all parts of the production, from sound to lights to building the props. Ms. Koo serves as the co-chair of the school's leadership team, and she recently led the team to develop a new vision and mission statement for the school. Root Elementary is fortunate to have Ms. Koo as part of their team. Amy Koo from Root Elementary School. Next is Elizabeth Miller, a speech pathologist at Cedar Fork Elementary School. Ms. Miller serves on the intake team where she observes the feeding of general mealtime students, collects data, and offers suggestions and feedback to the teachers. She collaborates with the assistive technology support person, ensuring that students have the appropriate assistive devices for optimal communication and adapting materials for the nonverbal and autistic students to meet their communication needs. Thank you, Ms. Miller, for your leadership and unwavering dedication to Cedar Fork Elementary School. Elizabeth Miller. Next is Bonnie Oraski. Bonnie is the lead secretary at East Garner Middle School. Bonnie manages many facets of the school's operations with great detail, including all bookkeeping. Ms. Oraski is incredibly knowledgeable and works hard every day to keep the school running smoothly. The staff respects and supports Ms. Oraski and appreciates her dedication to the East Garner Middle School family. Bonnie Oraski from East Garner Middle. Next is Valerie Ray. Valerie is a bus driver in the transportation department. This year, Ms. Ray partnered with school employees to support the academic success of 2 students at Herbert Akins Road Elementary. She formed a relationship with the students, their families, and school administration to ensure a positive school experience for these students. Daily, Ms. Ray checks on the students' progress. Her positive influence not only affects these 2 students, but all students at the school. Ms. Ray exemplifies professionalism and dedication to children. Her commitment to students is commended. Valerie Ray in the Transportation Department. Next is Jacqueline Reed, one of our substitute teachers. Jacqueline Reed is a substitute teacher often substituting at East Wake High School. She wants students to learn and succeed even during the absence of their regular teacher. Ms. Reed is kind, caring, and resourceful. She has high expectations for all students and is an incredibly hard worker. Ms. Reed can walk into any classroom, any content area, and be prepared to teach. East Wake High School is thankful for the dedicated service of Jacqueline Reed. Jacqueline Reed, substitute teacher from East Wake High School. Next, Julia Rushi. Julia is a reading intervention teacher at Baileywick Elementary. She is the epitome of excellence, commitment, compassion, and collaboration. Ms. Rushi was faced with an unexpected challenge on the first day of school. One of the newly hired 3rd grade teachers went into labor 2 months early, and the baby was born the morning of August 24th. Ms. Rushi volunteered to teach the class on that first day. She had less than 12 hours to prepare for the class, and the children had a very successful first day. She knew it would be difficult to find a highly qualified substitute on such short notice, so she volunteered to teach the class until the teacher returned at the end of October. Ms. Rushi took on the additional responsibility while continuing to be involved in the decisions of the literacy team, chairing the school improvement team, and serving on the school leadership team, as well as being a mentor to a first-year teacher. Julie Rushi is an extraordinary employee. And that's Julie Rushi, reading intervention teacher at Baileywick Elementary School. Next is Jackie Russell. Jackie is a director in special education services. Jackie is always professional and exudes a positive attitude. Ms. Russell has the ability to remain calm in the most stressful of situations. She is a great listener and problem solver. She has a wealth of knowledge about special education policies and procedures and is able to interpret the regulations in understandable terms. Root Elementary acknowledges and appreciates the support Ms. Russell has provided for their school this school year. And that's Jackie Russell, Director in Special Education. Next is Francine Seitzinger. Francine is an assistant at Northwoods Elementary School. She coordinates carpool and is on duty every afternoon. She knows the children's cars and the numbers, which makes carpool run much more smoothly. Ms. Seitzinger is the budget coordinator for the before and after school programs and co-coordinates the after school program at Northwoods Elementary. She is on the Positive Behavior Intervention and Support Committee and has created a behavior reporting form for staff to use. Ms. Seitzinger always looks for the silver lining and has a positive impact on everyone she encounters. She is very deserving of this Employee Excellence Award, and that's Francine Seitzinger from Northwoods Elementary. Larry Smith. Larry Smith is a bus driver who serves Dillard Drive Elementary School. Mr. Smith provides structure and support for the students who ride his bus and regularly communicates with families to build positive relationships. He is punctual at his duty each and every day. Each afternoon when students board the bus, he takes the time to talk to them and make sure they are seated properly before departing the school. Due to Mr. Smith's hard work, the behavior and safety on his bus had a marked improvement. Dillard Drive Elementary feels fortunate to work with Mr. Smith. And that's Larry Smith, bus driver from Dillard Drive Elementary School. I do have two additional employees who could not be with us tonight, but I do want to share the comments with you about them quickly. First is Sheila Lang. Sheila is a Child Find representative in the Office of Early Learning. She assists families in the first transition a child makes from early intervention to preschool special education services. Ms. Lang is one of 5 team members who contribute to the processing of over 1,800 referrals made annually to the Child Find office. She also assists the department with outreach events. Ms. Lang reserves space at community events, ensures display materials are readily available, recruits volunteers, and delivers materials to individuals who have requested them in a prompt and non-intrusive manner. Due to her ongoing commitment, the Office of Early Learning is well represented in the community. Her service to Wake County Schools is appreciated, and that's Sheila Lang in the Office of Early Learning. And finally, Sandy Wasserman. Sandy is the lead secretary and bookkeeper at Root Elementary School. She is an invaluable member of Root family. Ms. Wasserman always has a positive attitude and a smile on her face. She is one of those rare people who makes everyone around her feel happy. She has developed strong and meaningful relationships with many students and is loved by these students, the staff, and parents. Ms. Wasserman is definitely irreplaceable. Her presence at Root is truly appreciated. And that's Sandy Wasserman from Root Elementary School. So, board members, Dr. Merrill, and audience, at this time, I would ask you to join me in one last round of applause for these Employee Excellence Award winners. And now if you'll turn around and face the board for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman, and thank you all for allowing us to honor you, and endless thanks for the labor of love that you give our students every day. As you know, we've got a strategic plan in place, and it takes all of us, all 18,000 of us who work for the school system, from our music teachers to our custodians, those who fix our facilities, bus drivers. You're the first people that our students see every day, and from the beginning to the end of the day, we appreciate the love that you give our students and contribute to the learning of our students in the classroom every day. And I have to say thank you to Ms. Hill, who was one of my daughters, who's now 16, her preschool teachers, and she started this very young, you did, in your, but thank you for all the help you gave me as a parent, and thanks to all of you for all the help you give our parents and our families throughout Wake County. And if you join me one more time in applauding all you fan clubs out there, these wonderful people. We appreciate you being here, fan clubs. So we'll have a slight transition. Our next item is an information item on finance, our audit committee report. So why don't we just wait 5 minutes and have some transition? We'll take a 5-minute break. Oh, I think it's Welcome back. We now move on to our information item on our agenda under finance. Now we'll get to our audit committee report, followed by the comprehensive annual financial report. Mr. Mark Winters, welcome,
All right.
sir.
Thank you, Chair Kushner, Dr. Merrill, and board members. Each year, we have an external financial audit firm conduct a comprehensive review of the Wake County Public School System financial statement. Tonight, you will hear from the chair of the board's audit committee and also from our audit firm. Following their presentations, I'll share highlights of the report as an information item. Reeves and Associates presented the financial report to the audit committee on November 12th. This is the first year of a 3-year renewable contract with Reeves and Associates to audit our books. It was recommended by the audit committee and approved by the Board of Education in April of 2015. All the requirements of this committee are found in Board Policy 8810. We're one of the few school systems nationally and the only school system that I know of in North Carolina that has an established audit committee. Tonight we have Audit Committee Chair Sarah Martin to share the Audit Committee report on the financials. Following Ms. Martin, Jay Sharp, Partner and Director of Audit Services with Reeves and Associates, will present a summary of the audit from the perspective of the external auditors. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Martin now.
Welcome, Ms. Martin. Good to see you.
Thank you. Again, my name is Sarah Martin, and many of you know me from Wake County PTA Council, but as Ms. Kushner mentioned that she was a recovering PTA president, I'm a recovering CPA. Served many years as an auditor and enjoyed that immensely prior to becoming a PTA person and having that take over. I am pleased this evening to represent the audit committee to you and to provide you with some information. At the request of Mrs. Evans, I would like to read the names of the other members of our committee. Unfortunately, they are not with us this evening, but they have given time over the past year to serve, and I wanted to be sure that you knew who they were. Laird Hepburn, Charles Coble, William Mondon, and Robert Hanks are currently serving, in addition to myself, as the external audit committee for the school system. As Mr. Winters mentioned, the audit committee met last week with Reeves and Associates to discuss the results of the audit. That was on Thursday morning, and we asked a lot of questions about the scope of the audit, the proceedings of the audit, and the work that the school system staff had done in preparation for the audit, the work that they do throughout the year, the financial controls that surround the accounting processes within the school system, and we felt very good about what we heard from our external auditors. This does not come as a surprise because we have had a history for the past several years of having very clean audit reports that have been presented to us by our external auditors, and as we have for several years, we have an unmodified opinion that Mr. Sharp will be presenting to you this evening. So we were thrilled to maintain the continued excellence that we have found within our accounting systems and finance here for Wake County Public School System. There were 4 audit findings which were communicated to us by the auditors, and we did discuss those items at length with the auditors and have a full understanding of them. I do believe those will be addressed by Mr. Reeves and or by Mr. Winters in their comments, so I will not go into detail on that at this point other than to tell you that we do have a clear understanding of the items that were mentioned, and I can personally vouch for the fact that Mr. Winters has already begun following up with principals about some of the items that were shared by the auditors. I've talked to a couple of principals this evening even who have talked to me about that. So I'm pleased to say that those items are being taken care of by the school system. So following our discussions in the audit committee meeting last week, the committee did move to accept the audit report and the accompanying statements that go with it. I believe you have copies of those in front of you this evening. And at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Sharp to go through those with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Yes, Ms. Evans.
Before Mr. Sharp begins his presentation, I just want to say thank you to Sarah Martin for her leadership on the committee. I, as finance chairman for the school board, am a non-voting member of the audit committee, and I also am a recovering CPA. I just wanted to personally take this opportunity to make sure the board understands what a valuable service it is that these community members provide for us by participating on this committee. I think it's so important that we have independent, outside eyes taking a look at things and listening to what the auditors have to say about our financial records and our controls and our systems that we have in place. And they are very bright community members who are involved in the finance and legal industry around our area, and they come with very good questions and sharp eyes. And so I appreciate you reading the names of those participating, and I just wanted to take the time to personally acknowledge the importance of that committee, and my thanks for their participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. I appreciate that. All right, Mr. Sharp.
Good
welcome.
evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me out here tonight. My name is Jay Sharp. I'm with Reeves & Associates, as everybody's mentioned, the CPA firm that conducted the external audit for the school system for the year ended June 30th, 2015. As they've already mentioned, I met with the audit committee last week, and we had a good detailed discussion on how the audit went. I'm going to give a summarized version of that tonight. You should have a copy of my presentation if you want to follow along in front of you. I'll go ahead and get started. A couple of informational items. The engagement leadership team this year was composed of Lynn Reeves, the managing partner of the firm, and myself. I was the partner in charge of the audit and director of audit services for the firm. In addition, we had 3 staff that worked on the audit throughout the year. We try to keep the staffing the same throughout the years, and I'm happy to report that the engagement leadership team and the majority of the staff was the same as from previous year's audits. As you can imagine, an audit size of Wake County Schools takes a long time to complete. We had to start our procedures early on in the year, and that started back in April when you approved as board the contract to do the audit. We started our audit procedures late May, early June, when we started visiting individual schools for testing. We rotate those schools on an annual basis and perform about 10% of the schools on an annual basis, about 17 each year, but those are rotated on an annual basis. We performed an observation of inventory at year end, both the child nutrition warehouse and the supply warehouse. Then we were out here for a week in July to start our compliance testing and internal control testing. Finally, we wrapped up field work in September when we were out here for 2 weeks, finishing up compliance and also doing the financial aspect of the audit. The school system prepares the financial statements, as you know, and they gave us the financial statements the 3rd week of October for our review. We reviewed that, and we were able to submit that on October 28th. There are 2 deadlines relating to the audits of government entities in North Carolina. October 31st is the soft deadline. You have to have it into the local government commission. December 1st is the hard deadline. The 3 previous years we've done the audit's been submitted to the LGC the 1st week of November. There's always been a somewhat of delay because the school system had to wait for statistical information from Wake County. They received that information early this year, and we were able to put in the CAFR to the LGC for review before the October 31st deadline. I'm happy to tell you that the LGC reviewed the financials and got back to us last week and approved them with no changes. This is the 2nd year in a row that the LGC has approved the financials with 0 changes. The accounting department, especially Robin Presley, should be commended for producing these financial statements and having no changes. We do a number of governmental audits, and most of them have changes, so to come through with a clean review from LGC is very good. So let's talk about the audit. The status of the audit, as I just mentioned, we've completed our audit procedures for the year. The audit has been issued, and like I said, the LGC has reviewed and approved the audit for 2015. During the process, we touch a number of departments. Not only the accounting department, we integrate with the payroll department, individual schools, child nutrition, purchasing, many other departments. I'm happy to report we received complete cooperation from each individual staff that we worked with during the audit procedures. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. The role of the auditor. You hire us to give an opinion on the financial statements. We plan, assess risk, and perform audit procedures to obtain appropriate and sufficient audit evidence in order to render that opinion. Also, our role is tasked to communicate to those in charge in governance how the audit went and if there are any issues in internal controls with the school system. Management's responsibility. Management is responsible for the financial statement, and management is also responsible for the design and implementation of internal control. So the engagement objectives this year are much like last year. Major objectives of this year's audit was to give an opinion on the board's basic financial statements, to report on the considerations of internal control over financial reporting, and to report on considerations of compliance with requirements as they relate to both federal and state major programs. In addition, make observations regarding opportunities for improvements in internal controls and operations. So now that we know the objectives, let's talk about the results of this year's audits. That's why I'm here tonight. I'm happy to report we issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements for 2015. As I've said in the past, this is the best possible opinion the school system can receive. We did not report any findings as it related to financial reporting. One thing I want to comment is we had no adjustments recommended related to our audit procedures. I think this is very important as the board makes decisions on a monthly basis based on the financial information they're receiving. So I'm happy to report that financial information is very accurate and you're able to make the best possible decision using it. In addition to the financial aspects of the audit, we have to do compliance testing because of the amount of federal and state expenditures the school system has. As it relates to major federal programs, we are required to test each major program once every 3 years. The school system is a low-risk auditee, and we are required to test at least 25% of all major federal programs. The federal programs we tested this year were child nutrition, Title I, and improving teacher quality. That made up 61% of total federal expenditures for 2015. In addition, you're required to have a state single audit. For this year, the programs selected for testing were the State Public School Fund, which we selected every year, and the Technology Fund. So as it relates to both the single audit for federal purposes and state programs, there were no findings. I'm happy to report. Ms. Martin did mention some findings we went over with the committee last week, and they're not findings. Findings would be reported in the back of the CAFR. There were no findings. There were management letter points because some areas we saw internal controls could be better. So I just want to clear that up a little bit. You had no findings. You did have some management letter comments, but there is a very big difference in those. So required communications. There's a letter in front of you. It's called a SAS 114 communications letter. And basically this tells you how the audit went from our perspective. The first page talks about accounting policies with the school system. If there's any major changes in accounting policies, we have to communicate those to you. There was one this year in the implementation of GASB Statement 68, which is accounting and financial reporting for pensions. Every school system in the state was required to have this pronouncement this year. Other thing it discusses is estimates. There are two very major sensitive estimates with the system's financial statements. The first has to do with the estimated lives of capital assets, and the second has to do with the estimate of current liability related to compensated absences. Obviously, the school board does not know how many teachers or staff are going to either quit or retire during a given year. This is based on historic performances. The second page has to do with how we thought the audit went. First line, difficulties in counting and performing the audit. We encountered no difficulties. As I said, we had complete cooperation from all staff we encountered during the entire audit process. Disagreements with management. We had no disagreements with management, and we got along. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. As I noted before, there were no adjustments this year. Everything looked good from our audit procedures. So to summarize, the school system received an unmodified opinion, and there were no findings. Everything went very well from our perspective. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Any questions from board members? All right. Thanks very much. That was and we'll delve into the report more, but I appreciate you coming out this evening and for the work with, and glad to hear you didn't have any trouble with management. That's good. That's very good. That's very worthwhile to hear. Thank you, sir. All right. So our next part is on to the CAFR. Mr. Mark Winters.
All right, thank you. I would like to thank all those involved with the audit, including the finance and budget staff, Reeves and Associates, internal audit, and the audit committee. And as you heard Mr. Sharp mention, I'd like to thank Robin Presley, who really puts this book together and she makes sure every page matches numbers-wise, and Robin's sitting in the back. Wave, Robin. She does an outstanding job.
Thank you, Ms. Presley. Thank you.
So I want to take you through the book, just a few pages quickly. The book's divided into 4 sections: introductory, financial, statistical, and single audit. The introductory section includes a letter of transmittal, and it provides information about the county and the school system and the audit process. But if we'll turn first to statistical section in your book, this section provides global information about the school system and the county. The schedules associated with the county are directly from the Wake County Government Financial Report. If you'll turn to page 86, this page is the schedule of revenues by source. And if you look on the far right of the page, you'll see that total revenues for this year are $1.4 billion. It's an increase of $117 million over the prior year. And if you omit the capital, the revenues increased by $55 million from 2014. We use a comparison year of 2009 because that was around the time of the recession and when our funding started decreasing. So if you exclude capital, our revenues have increased by a little over 10% since the recession in 2009, while the student count has increased by about 12.5%. So we still haven't caught up with our student count yet, but we've made some gains. The capital revenues increase from 2014 to 2015 was close to 70%, again with the building program growing. And this is the largest total since 2009 also. If you turn over a page to 87, the schedule is expenditures by function. You'll notice a change in format in 2008, and that's due to state chart of account code changes that we're required to report a little bit differently. On page 88, the right-hand column gives you a total expenditure with a per pupil amount. So you see the $1.4 billion expenditure and the per pupil amount of $9,212. This includes capital outlay expenditures. 2 columns to the left is the total operating expenditures of $1.275 billion with a per pupil of $8,227. This is a $415 increase over the prior year. Again, if you compare to 2009, you'll see this is the highest figure we've had since 2009. If you look on page 87 in instructional services, you'll see the largest increase. Instructional services increased by $330 on a per pupil basis, and it accounts for about 80% of the total increase in that area. If you'll turn over to the single audit section beginning on page 112, this section includes the auditor's reports on internal controls and compliance. Also the schedule of expenditures of federal and state awards on page 122 and 123. That section provides information on grant revenues and expenditures. On page 118 and 119 are schedules of findings and question calls for the financial, federal, and state review areas. As Mr. Sharp and Ms. Martin mentioned, we had an unmodified opinion in each area. An unmodified opinion is the goal of the school system, meaning the audit was clean and the financials give a true representation of the financial status of the school system. And the results show, and you can see on those pages, that we had no material weaknesses and findings for the audited year. So finally, if we'll turn back to the financial section, page 4 is the management discussion and analysis, which provides a summary overview of the information located in the financial section. The financial reports begin on page 12 with the statement of net position. The reports in this section include detailed statements of revenues and expenditures and balance sheets of all the funding sources. Also, all the footnotes to the statements are in this section. And today we're going to take a look at the general or local fund balance sheet. So if you'll turn to page 15, we have the fund balance. That's the balance sheet for governmental funds, and in the first column is the general fund. You'll see the total fund balance near the bottom of the general fund is $68.3 million. This is a $21.6 million decrease compared to the prior year. The majority of the decrease is due to targeted one-time expenditures set aside as part of the assigned fund balance in 2014-15. $68.3 million fund balance consists of categories beginning with the non-spendable inventories, about halfway up the page, and prepaid expenditures. The inventory category includes the end-of-year balances for areas such as maintenance and instructional warehouse and transportation inventory. Prepaid expenditures consist of mainly the pre-purchase of the fuel that we do in transportation. We've had this practice in place for several years to purchase at market prices at reduced rates. And as noted in the title, these are inventory type categories where the funding is spent and not available for use. The next section is restricted, which includes accounts receivable, and these are funds owed to the system but not collected as of the end of the year, and carry forward encumbrances, purchase orders for projects that carried forward into the next year. The funds in these categories are restricted by state statute and not available for use. The next section is assigned fund balance, and I'll come back to special projects in just a moment. The insurance line of $10.2 million includes the school system self-insurance for dental and workers' compensation and a reserve for liability claims. We set aside this reserve to cover potential claims below the plan's deductible limits. The school system has increased its deductible limits over the past 3 years to maintain an affordable premium. Our deductible limits are now $25,000 to $250,000 per claim. The $1.1 million in flexible benefit plan represents the balance of funds collected from employees and not spent to date on medical and dependent care flexible accounts. And the $20 million of subsequent year expenditures are obligated to balance the current year's budget. The final category, unassigned, is special projects at $10.6 million. Included in this balance are items such as operating dollars allotted to new schools for opening, funds set aside to cover the local costs of the $750 state-approved bonus, and funds to reimburse the state for salary exception reconciliations. Additional funds were set aside in the amount of $6 million, including one-time items such as additional staff development and academics, carpet cleaning, stripping and waxing, deferred vehicle purchases, and activity bus purchases. And this information was provided to you by David Nieder in an October work session. All assigned fund balance categories are restricted for use and committed to a purpose and cannot be appropriated for other uses. The final category on this page is the unassigned fund balance of $14.89 million. These funds are available to the Board of Education to appropriate for a specific purpose. Best practices recommend in using these funds for one-time expenditures or in emergency situations. Appropriation for recurring expenditures place the board at risk in future years. This amount equals 1.1% of the total operating expenditures. Based on the current year budget of $1.4 billion, the daily operational cost to run the system is just over $5 million. So this is roughly 3 days operating in the unassigned fund balance. Per the board's policy, the unassigned fund balance of $14.89 million is 3.9% of this year's county appropriation. This concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Winters, that thorough report. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Hill.
Really just a comment and a clarification. I think, Mr. Winters, when you're on page 88, comparing total operating per pupil from 2009 to 15, you said accurately, this is the most we've had since then. But I'd like to clarify that that's $7 per pupil, just more for the public to know.
Yes, sir.
So since 09 to now, per pupil's gone up only $7. It is more, but I just wanted to clarify that for the public. $7 per pupil since 2009.
And not adjusted for inflation.
Not adjusted for inflation. And I am thankful to the commissioners for what they did approve, because we are digging out of holes. So it's not
Yes.
a zing at them. It's just, I don't want the public to think that we're sitting really fat.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Martin.
Mark, one minor question. You noted, you called out the instructional services, which did see the largest increase, about $300 per student. Is that primarily based on the increased salary that we were able to give to the teachers? Where do we see that being used?
I can't tell you that I know that answer exactly. I can look it up and let you know.
Okay.
I'm just
$300 per
doing
student
numbers in
ends
my
up being
head.
fairly significant, and so my guess is, particularly being instructional services, that makes sense. It was with the teacher salary. But
Yeah.
just curious where that money is going.
Because that would be close to a 5% increase. So,
And what page are you on?
Oh, it's true. This is page 87.
87.
well, but
Yeah, that's true. That's ending at June 30th. Okay.
But last year, we did have the increase in the structure when they built the 5-year structure.
Right.
So some did receive increases at that point in time.
Early in the salary schedule.
Right.
All right.
I'll look forward to just
Yeah,
seeing where that is. Thank you.
Any other questions on our clean review and on the audit or the CAFR? Thank you very much, Mr. Winters, and thank you to the audit committee and Mr. Sharp for coming here today. We really appreciate receiving this information. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, that concludes our information items. And we move now to the consent agenda with the reminder that we've pulled one item from consent. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? Or
Madam
the
Chair.
consent items, I should say.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda,
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
of the
Fletcher.
items on the consent agenda.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moving now to our action items. First, under policy, Board Policy 4201. And it is fast-tracked to comply with state statute. Dr. Connolly, welcome. Good evening, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Chair Kushner, board members, Dr. Merrill, as is indicated by Chair Kushner, this policy has been presented due to a State Board of Education policy requirement and deadline. It was reviewed by the superintendent's leadership team on November the 12th. It can be presented to policy committee on November 24th should the board decide to do so or need to do so. Our recommendation is that it be brought tonight for your approval without having to go back to policy committee and waiver of second reading. There are no current policies that would be replaced as a result of this particular policy that we're sharing with you tonight. But this policy basically directs the superintendent to implement a system-wide loss prevention and safety program with the goal of maintaining a safe working environment for employees and a safe learning environment for students. We request approval and waiver of second reading.
Thank you, Dr. Connolly. Dr. Martin.
So on behalf of the policy committee, I did review this after it came from superintendent's leadership team. There was minor little grammatical stuff is all I found, but otherwise it's consistent. I think it's consistent with state law. So I would concur with that recommendation. Do we need two motions or do it all in one?
I think you could do a motion to approve the policy and waive second reading.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the policy and waive second reading.
Thank you.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve Board Policy 4201, Injury and Loss Prevention, on first reading and waive second reading of the policy for approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you both. We now move under Human Resources, our 2015-16 salary schedules. Mr. Doug Tillman. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, Chair Kushner, members of the board, and Dr. Merrill. Tonight I present to you the 2015-16 WCPSS salary schedules and information. This document is a reflection of the hard work of this board, our superintendent, and the support of the Wake County Commissioners. There are several quick bullets I want to point out about changes for this year. First and foremost, a 3% increase to all non-certified positions. Again, a thank you to the board, superintendent, and our county commissioners. A revised extra duty schedule that is put in place and now being executed in the school system for our extra duty positions. And finally, an increase to the teacher supplement rates. Again, a thank you to you, our superintendent, and the county commissioners. All of the work that went into putting this information together is a reflection of the dedication of both boards and our superintendent, who provide the financial support to all of our employees. I do want to take a moment and thank Marcy Holland from my staff, who was instrumental in this work, as well as Mark Winters and the compensation services team, who took this information and are putting it into our employees' pockets as quickly as possible upon board approval. So with that said, I present to you the 15-16 WCPS salary schedules for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Any questions or comments from Mr. Tillman? Dr. Martin?
Motion to approve?
Is a motion and a second? Any further discussion or comment? Mr. Benton?
Being at the State Board Association convention this last 2 days, it was interesting. There were some groups that congratulated us on being able to do this. There were some groups that are outright upset because they said that we're now stealing their teachers. My response to those was that we're not stealing teachers. The state is driving your teachers away. We simply base our argument for a local increase on our superintendent's recommendation that within 5 years we be at the national average. I know I have said, and I don't want to speak for the board, but I have said that in my opinion, if the state ever steps up and adopts that as their goal, which was North Carolina's goal and was achieved 10 years ago, before we've now dropped to somewhere between 47th and 50th, depending on how you want to measure it, then that would nullify the advantages that we have created with other systems. But until then, we can put all the programs in place, we can provide all the technology we want to provide, but if we don't have adequate, high-quality teachers in our classrooms, none of it works. And so, again, I would like to thank our county commissioners in recognizing and trying to fulfill that need, and our public for supporting that need in the various ways that they have let it be known that they are in support of that. And again, challenge our state leaders to do something to stop the tremendous loss of teacher capacity that we are experiencing in this state. I have sought to get some kind of number of the vacancies across the state at this time, but they're not really compiled. But just based on about 15 systems that I do work in, every single one of them has critical vacancies, and here we are approaching Thanksgiving in the year, with a lot of vacancies occurring at third grade. No surprise, because they're experienced teachers. As soon as there's an opening at another grade level, they want it. And if they don't get it, they go to the school in the next district over that will have second or fourth grade. And that's been such a critical year based on the reading initiatives that our state has had. So, again, I wholeheartedly support this and thank y'all for the efforts that you have put into it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Benton. Mr. Hill.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Tom's concern. I have the privilege to go speak with teacher-to-be cohorts, and last week I was at one such, and they're dealing with historically low numbers, and I hear from programs throughout. So while we have a shortage right now, I think the problem is going to worsen as the pipeline narrows and we have fewer and fewer graduates. So not only are folks leaving the state, because several of mine have written to me in the last year who were teaching, and they're moving out of the state, but the pipeline's also getting much smaller and smaller. So it's going to be a critical issue that we're going to have to face.
All right. Other comments or questions from Mr. Tillman? I'm glad you're bringing this to us then. So, all right. And there's
Madam
a motion
Chair.
on the floor. Yes, Mr. Fletcher.
I've been on this board when we were not able to increase supplement. Although most of those years there was a 2% or some adjustment in the state schedule, and teachers were able to move to a new step. So I believe this board has stepped out and tackled an issue that was created by how the legislature chose to reform the salary schedules for teachers. And I think I'm glad we did it. I wish we could have done more. Expect that we will continue to have this attitude toward how do we properly compensate the people who work so hard to serve our children. It's important that we continue to let our teachers know that we value what they do, and we're going to do everything we can to support them choosing to stay here and to serve our children. And so I just want to add that to this.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Any other comments to add? We appreciate, I think I saw a statistic at the School Board Association meeting that showed that since 2002, when we did approach the national average in teacher salaries, we have stayed flat and declined in average. As we've grown, we've hired new teachers, which has brought our average down because some are younger, but that purchasing power of teachers has fallen 17% in the last 15 years. So we're glad to be making this advancement today, but it's been a long time in getting to this point. So thank you for bringing that to us tonight. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
So much. Our final action item under academic advancement, the approval of final school improvement plans for designated low-performing schools in accordance with GS 115C 105.37. Ms. Kathy Moore.
Chair Kushner, Superintendent Merrill, and board members, good evening. I am bringing this evening for final approval the revised school improvement plans as required by the budget documents for designated low-performing schools. We started this process back in October when we were notified of the 20 schools in our district that would be required to revise their school improvement plans along a state rubric. We provided support for those principals to do so, made those preliminary plans available to the board for review on October 20th, and have since then also notified parents and made them available for parent feedback. We are now at the point where we are asking for approval of the final revisions to those SIPs for the board, and we will next have to submit them to the state board for review, and the state board may provide some feedback on those, and if feedback is provided, we will review that feedback, and if necessary, make any changes that would require additional board approval if we do make changes. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. So we have an item before us.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the revised plans.
There's a motion?
Second.
And a second? Is there any discussion? Mr. Benton.
First, I want to thank you, Kathy, your staff, and the school staffs for the work that they had to put into revising these plans and monitoring the plans and coming up with some creative, solid plans to achieve hopefully more success for their students. But I need to say it. I will be abstaining from voting on this action tonight to show my extreme displeasure with the whole process that we have had forced on us by laws that were put into the budget and never even appeared before any committees to be discussed or anything. And the reason I am doing this is that we are past the point of just emphasizing standardized testing to the disadvantage of how young people learn or old people learn. We're past that point to where we're doing real damage to people. We're damaging students, we're damaging teachers, we're damaging principals, we're damaging schools, we're damaging communities. We're stigmatizing them, we're penalizing them, and there was absolutely nothing in this law that offered any additional resources to help these people. We have talked at this table about how letter grades are given, and I've made it real clear my disdain for the single letter grade for schools as being an invalid measurement. But parents are paying attention to it. Civic leaders are paying attention to it. So it's beginning to have real consequences. And now we've got 550 some schools across the state that are paying real consequences for what is, I think, a very invalid measurement to use in the first place. We've discussed whether this letter grade should have been based on growth or proficiency. The state came down heavily on proficiency, which means that 80% of this letter grade is based solely on the percent of your students that are passing these standardized tests. Think about what we're saying when we say that. We're saying that every child in the 3rd grade, after X number of school days, should be able to score the same minimum as every other 3rd grader. And you can say that for 4th grade, 5th grade, right on up the line to EOCs in high school. We all know from our own reality, kids learn at different paces. They learn to walk at different paces. They learn to talk at different paces. They learn to read at different paces. They learn adding, subtracting. And we don't pay any attention to that. We just simply say, if you have completed 3rd grade, or then you've got to score this minimum that other kids have scored, and acting like if they don't do that, well, then they're not going to ever learn how to read. And that's simply not true. They can learn how to read after that. That assumption alone, to me, makes this an extremely invalid process for us to be using to judge our people. When you add into that there's an extremely close correlation to low-performing schools and the environments that students come from, we are looking at teachers being held responsible for environmental influences that they have no control over. And these teachers, in many, many cases, have given their lives to trying to help these students that are needing the most help. Our state has adopted policy after policy, practice after practice, that discourages people from going into the teaching profession and discourages them from going to these low-performing areas. So, in my opinion, we owe the teachers and principals in these schools a debt of gratitude. We owe them our respect, and we owe them additional resources and support to give them a chance to have success with these students. But instead, we're caught in a process where we're going to further stigmatize and penalize these very people that are needing our most support and our most help. So I will be abstaining from voting for these actions, or whatever they are, plans.
Thank you, Mr. Benton. Dr. Martin?
Thank you, Tom, and I plan to join you in abstention. I spend a lot of time worrying about grading with my own students, and I know how complex it is. I work hard to write exams that are meaningful, and some of it is about performance, but the exam is not what I really want to base the grades on. I want to base the grades on how much that student has grown, how hard they've worked. I need to understand their background. I need to make sure that the test that I write is appropriate for their background. I need to know all of that information, and we're having grades imposed by somebody who does not even know our students, and in this case, our students being our schools. Grades cannot be imposed by somebody who does not know the student. And so I will join you in abstention.
Ms. Evans?
Well, I just want to thank Mr. Benton for his very succinct comments that certainly express my viewpoints as well. I do want to say that I appreciate the work that the staff has put into working with the schools to get these revised plans put together, but I think it's important to acknowledge that every one of our schools and every employee in this district is already focused on a culture of continuous improvement. We are not resting on our laurels, and we do not need the legislature telling us to label our schools as performing or low performing or high performing to know where we need to give attention to improving student outcomes. And we are doing that every day. I'm so proud of this organization that I have the privilege to serve on the board for, because I find out more and more all the time all the hard work that is going on at the central office level, at the principal level, at the PLT team level. We are focused on continuous improvement, and the purpose of these low-performing labels just does nothing but stigmatize our schools and schools across the state who are dealing with challenges oftentimes brought on by various environmental factors. And there's nothing positive to be gained by this. Where is the focus on how we will bring resources to improve the situation? And what is the expected outcome? And this is not being highlighted tonight, but this legislation that we are discussing has another component to it that has serious implications for staff members at these low-performing labeled schools, and the public needs to know that. We are charged with either having, under certain circumstances, to move the principals out of these schools, assuming that it's their performance that has led to this, and in other cases, rearrange other staff and teachers at the school. And that just disrupts the environment for these students even more. So while that's another part of this legislation that we're not really discussing tonight, I'm so disturbed by the implications for our personnel that I just wanted to verbalize that, and I will also be abstaining from voting for this tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson-Hostler.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. I had my hand raised to highlight that piece, that not only do the letter grades add a stigma to the school community, but also a reflection to our personnel, our teachers and our administrators, and what that says to those folks who go to school every day dedicated to all of our children. I had my parent-teacher conference last week, and sitting in front of my daughter's teacher, who's pregnant, who, by the way, I told her, good job, she planned it perfectly. She'll be able to teach all of her before she goes out. So I thought that was perfect planning. She'll have a baby in the summer. But she and I started talking afterwards, and I don't think most people at my daughter's school know I'm on the school board, but she was reflecting with me some of the changes and clearly understood the impact of the letter grade on her school, what it meant for her children. And we were having this conversation about the information that the schools were required to send to their parents. And we attend a school that has a ton of kids, including one who sits in the classroom now who has only been in this country for 2 weeks, who he nor anyone in his family speaks any English. And her point to me was trying to explain that the United States of America is a great place for a great education. It's a gateway opportunity for these families. And how do you explain to a family that this place that they came for their education is now being pretty much by our legislature saying, well, this school isn't a good school, and what does that mean, and how do you explain that to people who don't speak English, number one, and two, who are here for our educational system? And I think that's just a whole nother added layer that we send out a piece of paper, but then those teachers in that classroom and those principals are then tasked with helping the families understand that this should not, in my opinion, be a reflection on the work that they're doing to those kids. And we look at administrators who've been in some of these schools who are deemed low performing for over a decade as administrators. And we can look at their track record and see the work that they've done in those schools for those students and for their community, and then we still slap a letter grade on top of them. And like it or not, I know I can speak for myself. When you get a letter grade and you feel like you've done everything you can, it's really difficult to not take that personally and feel like it's something that you personally did. And I think that's the thing for me that hits home every day, is that everybody in that building takes this as something personal. And I think that's the message that we want to relay to people, is that this is a personal message to the people who dedicate their lives to our kids. And so I too will be abstaining.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson-Alter. Mr. Fletcher. I'll have a question for Mr. Blumberg in a minute.
A couple of points. I think Mr. Benton mentioned that this entire activity was concocted and stuck into the budget without any public debate, notice, didn't go to the Education Committee. It was a budget item, which we found out about after the budget was finally enacted, and so we're being rushed tonight to decide what to do with what the staff has prepared. I don't like the process. And here's something that if we just think about what actually happens in schools where we have a large number of children whose families are not financially well off. In some of our schools that serve students that are in low income, perhaps as many as 40% of the students in that building at the beginning of the year will not be there at the end of the year. And they will have been replaced by another 40%. So the hard work that school community did the previous year, and perhaps even through the summer with some supplemental programs to help prevent the summer slide, 40% of those kids go out the door the next year before the end of grade test. And another 40% come in from some other schools, some other school district, some other country, and are subjected to that test. So when you understand what goes on underneath an imperfect testing system and the realities of the mobility of our students, then it just exacerbates the fact that just to say the students that happen to be in your building on August 29th of 2014 results in this letter grade, because 40% of those kids aren't there now. And so I'm going to join my colleagues in abstaining from, this is not going to help us improve the outcomes for students in North Carolina.
Mr. Hill. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher.
As an educator, a classroom teacher, former principal, who has a nephew and a niece who no longer teach in North Carolina, but they still teach, I see there's no reason to exacerbate the teacher shortage, and I think Mr. Benton and the others have expressed reasons why this is bad policy. I concur.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. So, Mr. Blumberg, if we have if we have abstentions on this item, can you tell me the impact of that, sir?
I certainly understand the powerful symbolic message that the board's sending by abstaining under your policy. An abstention does count as a vote in favor of the motion. And that's policy 1323, which specifically states under F that a decision not to vote by a member who's physically present and not excused from voting on the motion shall be recorded as an affirmative vote.
So the result will be that the plans go into place. We will be in compliance with state
You'll be in
law,
compliance. The motion will pass.
and the motion will pass with a message.
With
and
a message.
I think it's worth noting, Mr. Benton had noted to me earlier that many, if not most, of the schools on this list of 20 had met expected growth, but because they didn't reach another, they did not exceed growth, they are made this this list. So, any further comments? Hearing none, we have a motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I'm sorry, abstain.
I'm going to start one more time. Are those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed? Are there any abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain.
So let the record show that the full board abstained on this vote, but it will be recorded as affirmative, and we will be in compliance with state law.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session at this time, if appropriate, to consider confidential personnel information protected under GS 143.318.11A, 6, 115C, 319, to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privileges provided in GS 143.318.11A3, to consider confidential student information protected under GS 115C 402 in the Family Educational and Privacy Rights Act 20 U.S.C. 1232G, and to establish or give instructions concerning the board's negotiating position related to a potential acquisition of real property as provided in GS 143.318.11A5.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to go into closed session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now in closed session.